All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gravity Max live stream. Today we have a guest. We have Johan, and we're all here on webcam. So yeah.
Yeah, our first webcam episode where we're not all in the same room.
Yep.
We're using Zoom right now, as I'm sure a lot of people have started using Zoom due to current events. But right here, I have my laptop on my desk right here, so this is where you guys are. I do have the presentation up on my desktop though, so I'll be looking this way mainly. But when I want to make a point and when I talk, I'm going to be looking at you.
Yep, it's Gravity Max Homeschool Edition.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to do that this season. And now I apologize if the frame rate isn't the best. We're going to figure that out with OBS. We're going to figure out how that works. But I guess let's get into it, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at the replay on my desktop. It looks all right. You know, the frames are a little estranio.
Estranio. What does this look like? Let's see what that looks like.
I gotta wait for the delay.
You gotta wait 30
I'm
seconds.
Sure.
Yeah, I bet it looks kind of weird.
It's gonna be.
But anyways, let's see. I'll start with the plugs. Okay.
Yeah.
So first we have in the description, visit our guest Johan's channel. So as always, support our guests. You know, because they take the time out of their days to come and be on our show. Okay. This video is not intended for children under 13 years old. If you are under 13 years old, please not watch this video, as the topics we discuss are meant for those with at least a high school level of education. If you are not 13, you will not understand the scientific topics discussed in this video. All right, with that out of the way, visit the Gravity Max website and the Gravity Max social media, links in the description. Also, visit Sebastian's channel, 128 Seconds, and his Instagram. And I'm 90% sure it's still just one picture, right?
I uploaded another picture, actually.
A
day or two ago, I posted my second post ever. Also, I saw you doing this thing. It just looks like you're chopping invisible fruit. You know, it's going
nice. Chopping invisible fruit.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yes, I did
Fruit
post
ninja.
another photo.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so check that out. I really want to see that photo. I'm intrigued now. Buy A Truly Dead Rock, available on Amazon. If you are interested in sci-fi novels and you like to read sci-fi, then you might like this book. I've got links to that on my website. I have a little preview. I'm pretty sure Amazon lets you preview, so check that out and see if it's something that you might like to read. I think that's all the plugs out of the way. Also, I do want to mention one thing. Make sure to leave chat, talk. We like to have audience interaction. But also, I have a question for anyone watching. I did a few Minecraft videos, and those haven't been getting a lot of views. The first one got quite a few views. It's weird. It's this weird thing on YouTube where the first video I make in a new genre gets a ton of views, and then after that it just levels off. So it's hard to tell if that's just the algorithm. But if you guys actually want to see more of that, then I will do more of that. But if it's just pointless, then it's why would I do that? I could spend my time writing for the next book. But yeah, it's weird. Sometimes with the YouTube algorithm, I'm I should just do a completely random video every week. 1 week film noir, next week political satire, just different thing each week. To get a ton
That's
of views.
Basically my channel.
Yeah? Well, hey.
It's just random.
Well, yeah, it sounds entertaining. Check that out. We've got our chat. We've got Yui Film says, webcam. They are, there they are. Lol, spam chat. No, don't spam chat. Just use chat. Do not abuse the chat. Only use it properly as intended. But anyways, here we have our topic, our technological world. So we live in a very technological world. And there is Yeah, like the title says. There's a lot of technology that we use in our day-to-day lives, and sometimes we don't realize it. And there's a lot of advanced technologies that like that we might not notice. You know, it might not be on your radar, like in your mind, because it's very new. So we just kind of want to talk about some of that. And I think this pandemic, current events, one of the things that it has done is like showed a lot of this technology to the public, especially like this Zoom, like virtual meetings. We're going to talk about that. We have a segment for that, but I think that is very interesting. So I think it's relevant. We have a few more chat. We got UE Films. Minecraft videos were entertaining. Johan says, "I love Minecraft. Thank you." UE Films. I'm waiting for Maxcraft CS:GO. Johan, where can I watch a good Minecraft stream?
So the joke was UE Films was streaming Minecraft. I think he's still doing it right now.
Oh, interesting. UE Films. Check. Mine's unlisted. I'm just using it to record. All right. It might just be for me, but the webcams are very lagged. It's like 2 FPS. Yeah. It is 2 FPS. I don't know what's wrong with OBS. I don't know why OBS does that.
I told Max this before, but I am going to, because I recently just did 2 streams, and I just streamed a game, because those are really just tests, because, well, I do like playing games. I am a gamer. But I was doing it to like figure out the program and see if I had like the capacity to stream. And I've realized that OBS is pretty in depth, and not a lot of people that use it actually know like everything about it. So I'm gonna watch hours upon hours of tutorials eventually, like probably pretty soon.
Great.
And
yeah, we have so much time to do stuff.
You know, just up the quality.
Streamlabs OBS is good. OBS makes a whole platform just for streaming.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, so we'll figure that out. But yeah, just so you know, like the streams are always at this level. It's always technically 2 FPS. It's just we tend to have a static slide on the stream. You know, we just have our technological world. That would just be the only thing on display right now, so you wouldn't notice the 2 FPS. So yeah, we're gonna try and fix that so that we can continue doing these webcams and so that they don't look weird. But yeah, should we get started? Does anyone else have anything to say on this slide?
Technology is big.
All right. Let's see. So we got a few more little chats. Okay, yeah, mine's unlisted. Okay, too much man for one internet connection. Yeah, that's what UE Films
us
says.
3 merry men, you know, we just destroy all the bandwidth.
We do.
Of course.
Yeah, anyways, all right. So first we start with teleoperation. And this is a very interesting concept, and it's increasing like in its capabilities, and it's very important for a lot of these technologies. And what teleoperation is it's the ability to operate a machine from very far away. So that can be something as simple as just like think of every space probe ever. Like those have been teleoperated because when they're unmanned, there's no one on them. So we just send a signal and tell it to do something. But yeah, that can be even just like a little RC car, you know, those little cars that like kids like to play with the, you know, those. Did you guys ever have some of those? Yeah.
I had one of those and it got run over by a real car.
There's always a bigger car.
Yeah, then a truck ran over that
exactly.
car. And then a plane crashed on top of it.
Exactly.
Horrible Wednesday afternoon.
Oof. Yeah. But if you've also just like those little drones, if you've ever had one of those, that is all technically teleoperation because you're operating something remotely instead of having to like physically be there. So yeah, if you look at this picture, this guy's right next to this robot, but say he was on the other side of the world and the signal was being sent, he could have this robot, like, move around, do whatever, and, he wouldn't even be there. So that has a lot of applications. One, and we're going to talk about all of them. This topic is kind of like, it gets like spread apart across this video. It's like disparate because it has military applications, because if you don't actually need to send your soldiers into a dangerous area, they're safe at home, and it's just the machines that they are controlling that are in the dangerous areas. That's important. Also, just it allows for a lot more work to be done from home, because you don't physically need to go to operate the machines. You can operate your machines from your house. So yeah, there's a lot of applications for this.
Yeah. So like Max said, this is a topic that can get really spread out, because like you could use it for like sea exploration or space exploration. You could just have a robot trundling on the surface of Mars, or trundling on the bottom of the sea. Places that we as humans just can't go. So I think its biggest application is going to be research, because you just send it into a dangerous environment in which we ourselves can't go, put cameras on it, and just see what you find. Collect resources, minerals, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I've also
Johan, if you had a robot, what would you name it?
Oh, is he?
Is he there?
Let's see. Oh, he's on mute.
He's still in the Zoom call.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, okay, cool.
Sorry, I just had to do something.
Okay.
All right. If you had a robot, what would you name it?
Oh, Seymour.
Seymour. What would you like to see more of?
I don't know. Money.
Great.
Money.
Subscribers.
Subscribers, yeah. I would like that. But but yeah, another application is like search and rescue missions. When people are buried in rubble, there have been I've seen robotics competitions where the main goal of the mission was to actually be able to produce a robot that can find people. But now this is also another similar kind of topic, but instead of teleoperating something, if you can have it be controlled by an artificial intelligence, but then that's another topic. So these topics are very there aren't defined clear lines between them. They're all very connected, and there's a lot of new futuristic type stuff that we can just do today. So there's a few instances where you might want to use teleoperation, or you might want to use actual AI. And an example of this is our rovers on Mars, right? So it takes 20 minutes for a message to get from Earth to Mars, and then 20 minutes for a message to get back. So in total, that means that you see a picture from Mars of what your rover is doing. It takes 20 minutes to get to you, and then you have to react to it, and then it takes 20 minutes for your next command to come back. So that slows things down. A gift from Zoom. Okay, I don't know. Oh, I guess Zoom has time limits on meetings. Dude, I don't know. It says running out of time. We've removed the 40-minute time limit. Okay, if we hit a time limit, we'll just open another meeting. I mean,
yeah.
Ever think of that, Zoom? Okay.
But what if you had a 2-hour seminar in college?
I mean, just open.
Yeah, they want you to buy their premium thing.
They want you to buy, but that's stupid. Look, guys, if we get cut off, I will just open a new meeting.
Yeah.
Ever thought of that, Zoom? But anyways, right? Even if you could perfectly teleoperate a rover, say you had really good virtual reality, so you can make someone like be the rover. You might not actually want to do that because of the signal lag. It might be better to have an on-site artificial intelligence controlling the rover with occasional commands from Earth, so that, if the rover is about to like drive off a cliff, it knows like, oh shoot, I should stop, instead of like you getting the message like your rover's about to fall off a cliff, and then 40 minutes later when the thing's dead at the bottom of the ditch, it's like, hey, don't fall off that cliff. So yeah, that's why there are some differences. But for just Earth to Earth, or even like Earth to Moon operations, anything within Earth's like gravitational, what's it called? The sphere of influence. Yeah, anything inside of Earth's gravitational sphere of influence is probably close enough that if you wanted to, you could teleoperate. Like, there's actually this company that wants to build like a spaceport in low Earth orbit, and they say that like part of their thing will be they will hire people on Earth to teleoperate like little worker drones in orbit. So there are a lot of like ideas for this. So yeah, this is a very important technology.
All right. I do want to mention I just got 2 messages from Johan. Apparently, he just got a call and he's having a family emergency.
Oh.
So definitely more important than this stream that he goes and handles that.
Okay.
But so it's just gonna be me and Max for the rest of it, just like old times.
Yeah.
We will still bring all the same Gravity Max, John.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wow. Okay. I don't know what's happened, but okay. We will press on. All right. So, do you have anything else on teleoperation?
Maybe if we got teleoperation to a high enough level, if we got the best programmers and we got the best logistics, the best like materials, the best wiring, all of it, I could finally have a dance partner good enough to match the absolute raw energy I have as I'm dancing.
Uh-huh. But
there's a bright future ahead of us.
Controlled by someone else, though.
Yes. Or maybe I control it as I'm dancing.
As you're dancing with it.
I have that much ability.
You can play both at once.
Yes.
You pull the Quicksilver ping pong trick.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's move on to.
Yeah. All right. So next week. Yeah, this is a fun one. Next we've got communications, and yeah, this is very relevant to our current situation, because this is what we're doing right now. We're communicating using Zoom. So just like 20 years ago, you had to like call someone, right? I mean, that's crazy. You only had audio channels, but now we actually have video communications, which is very interesting. I'm not sure exactly when that started. I don't know when Apple introduced FaceTime, for instance, or when Skype coalesced out of the cosmic dust. Yeah, look it up. But
Skype was founded in 2003.
Oh.
And then it got improved. But in my opinion, it has not been updated since 2003.
That's why we're using Zoom.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Zoom was founded in 2011.
Oh, wow.
But, yeah. So, like, new technology when you look at the grand scope of things.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, it's very interesting to have video communications, because just 20 years ago, it used to just be like audio. And if you can hear someone's voice, like even in business settings, right, business applications, you can have the speakerphone. But when you only have someone's voice, you don't have their hand gestures. Like, I like to make a lot of hand gestures, right? So you miss all of that, and you miss like body language. So if the person's actually there, it's like more advantageous, because like, oh, okay, I'm whittling them down. They're like sweating. They're like, they don't know what to do here. I'm about to get them, right? But if they're just on the phone, it could be like, oh yeah, I'm fine. So video communications kind of bring it another step further where you don't actually have to physically be somewhere. You know what I mean? Because if you like go way back, right, and you just have letters, even telegrams, that is like horrible. Horrible. Like you can't conduct business like that. If you have a business meeting, you need everyone there. You can't just like very quickly send telegrams back and forth. And so once we've got phone lines and stuff, that greatly improved things. So someone could be in like Chicago and they can be in a business meeting with someone in New York, but as I was saying, audio still has those pieces missing. Video brings it another step further. So, like, we could be in the same room, Like, actually, like, your wall color looks similar enough to the wall behind me right now, For all anyone knows.
Yeah, that'll be a massive plot twist if I just, like, turn around and it's just your desk.
Yeah.
And you're on my wall.
Yeah, exactly. We've got two cameras, two camera perspectives. So yeah, that is, very close. But, technology tends to move faster than society does. So even though we have this video communication, people are used to their old ways where it's like it's better to have an in-person meeting. So they're like, okay, you gotta fly out to New York or whatever to actually have the meeting if it's important enough. But if it's just if it's one of your lackeys, if it's a low-level employee, you can start to arbitrate some of that. But if you have the board executives, like they all need to be there,
Yeah.
But as, we go through this crisis, I think a lot of people are going to become more open to the idea of video communications just because they're kind of forced to, and they're like, well, here we are. And then they're going to be like, hey, this actually isn't that bad. It's not that much worse than just a real meeting. So physical in-person meetings will decrease because of this. And this is like, it allows for decentralization. But the question is, where does this go in the future, right? And, that could be like holograms, or you rent an android to teleoperate for a few hours, right? Like, you could imagine, like, every city, like, every few blocks, it has a small warehouse or, like, a telephone booth thing with just a ton of androids in it, and you just, like, log in, and then you're like, I'm android. But, I don't know. Those are just ideas I like to have. As a sci-fi writer, I just like to think, like, let me put that in a story. But
I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, because in my book, like, you were talking about how this entire situation is making people more used to the, like, video life, I guess.
Yeah.
Currently, well, like, and this is going to go on to the finished product. Like, my book is not done yet, but there is no, like, physical school in my book. Like, it's all video stuff, And there are, like, mini holograms as well that just come out of, like, portables, which are just basically Omni tools on your wrist. It's like, like an Apple Watch combined with a phone, combined with, like, an iPad, combined with, like, a computer, combined with, like, a map, like, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. So it's just, but that's really not too far-fetched. Like, maybe all of that on your wrist is a little, but even though, like, right now I've heard a lot of complaints from people that are just like, oh, my teachers have no idea, like, what's going on, right? No idea how to properly deal with the situation. And I've heard a lot of, like, negative comments about the teachers, and not a lot of students are actually suffering, but aren't really at a disparity. So right now, it seems like this could never be a actual instated thing. But when our generation starts becoming teachers, we are much more used to this stuff than our predecessors. So when our generation becomes the age of where we start becoming teachers and professors, this becomes a much greater possibility.
Yeah. It's a very big generational divide today with technology, just because of like such a rapid pace of development that it's like hard to keep up, you know. But yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, communications, they're going great. But let's see, what was I going to say? I don't know what I was going to say, but yeah, so this is going to become more common because of this pandemic. People are now more used to the idea of, video chatting. So that's an interesting effect. Yeah.
That's really all I had to say about communications.
Yeah, me too.
Very topical, but I think we can hop over to the next one.
All right. Okie dokie. Okay, transportation.
RIP.
We got our friend here, the Concorde.
F
in the chat. The Concorde jet. So
yeah, explain what the Concorde is.
The Concorde jet was a jet that would travel at supersonic speeds, okay? And, you might be thinking, okay, that's a normal thing. We have jets that move at supersonic speeds, but it was a passenger jet. Yeah, let that sink in. So people used to be able to ride on a supersonic jet, and it would go between New York and London, New York and Paris, or the other way around. So it would do transatlantic voyages, and it would do them in like 3 hours. If you have ever traveled across the pond, it takes like 8 or 9 hours. And we used to be able to do it in 3 hours. But unfortunately, popularity died down. It is so sad. So the Concorde jet, I think it had like a travel accident, and it was very publicized. It had this accident, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't ride this anymore," even though it was a fairly safe plane. And then what else happened was that it's kind of like first class, so you had to be fairly wealthy to afford a trip on the Concorde. The common person would just be like, "Yeah, I'll just take the common jet. It'll take me 9 hours. I don't really care. I still get there." But the wealthier people were like, "I gotta get there 3 hours. Like, I'm gonna do it." And yeah, so demand died down, and eventually it was decommissioned. But I think that is a tragedy. I think we gotta bring back the Concorde, because we are behind today from what we used to be. If you wanted to, you wouldn't have to charter any planes, you wouldn't have to do anything. You would just have to pay a higher price, and you could get to London in 3 hours. Like, that's crazy. Think about it. You get up like 6 a.m., you get to the airport, say it's like you live like very close to the airport. You get to the airport, your flight, I don't know. Airports tend to be inefficient anyway. You'd probably spend more time in the airport than in the air, to be honest. So yeah, say your flight ends up leaving 8 a.m. and then you're in New York at 8 a.m., in London at 11 a.m. You could make a noon time tea, if you so please. But you can't really do that today unless you charter a private supersonic jet, which would be very difficult to do, I think. So I think the technology of transportation in this regard has kind of stagnated a little bit, but it's kind of the question of what counts as advanced and what counts as like falling behind, because if you have cheaper flights and cheaper transportation, some could argue that that is more important than simply having the fastest transportation, because it makes it more accessible to more people, so that the average person could fly to London. Still, it would take them 9 hours, but that's better than having it be 3 hours, and only like very wealthy people could do it. So that's an argument, like about supply and demand and whatever. But I personally think that the Concorde should still exist. If I could time travel, I would take a Concorde trip. That's what I would do. Yeah. Like if I traveled to like the 70s or 80s or whatever, while I was there, I'd be like, I might as well take a trip on the Concorde. Yeah. But then we have some other technologies. So we have trains, and this is utilizing maglev technology, magnetic levitation, to go at very high speeds and get between places really fast. I think the fastest one is like nearing 300 miles an hour. So, that's pretty advanced. But the current fast ones, they only travel very short distances, which is a shame, Because if you actually had 300 miles per hour, say, from like New York to Los Angeles, you had a whole like transcontinental bullet train maglev thing. That could get you to New York and Los Angeles, 300 miles an hour, maybe like 10 hours, which is quite a bit.
Fact check that.
Like, that's quite fast. Like, that's very fast. A plane would take you 6 hours to get from New York to Los Angeles. So if you could have a bullet train that takes 10 to 12 hours, that would be incredible, especially considering that trains tend to be less expensive than planes. So that's the other
it would be
thing.
9 hours.
9 hours, wow.
Going at 300 miles per hour.
Nice. So yeah, that's the thing.
9.5.
All right.
Actually.
Yeah. So it's about the cost versus speed. So if you're not just flying in for the weekend. So yeah, but an interesting thing with that is that trains require a lot more infrastructure than planes do. So that makes them difficult. Like, they have to be very long-term investments. And if they're not going to turn a profit, like, it's a little difficult to actually get a new train line established. If you want a new, right, like, think about it. If you want to get a new plane route established, you just need to build an airport. But if you want a new train line established, you need to like go across an entire continent building rails. Like, especially for maglev bullet trains, those are very different from just standard tracks. You couldn't just stick a maglev train on normal train tracks. You'd have to build 3,000 new miles of track for these maglev trains. So that's like a difficult, it's economics, right? It's difficult. Might not be sustainable economically to have trains like that. But it's still an interesting prospect. So then finally we have electric cars, we have Teslas, and there are other companies that have electric cars, but I like Elon Musk, so I'm only going to talk about Teslas. No, I know there's like the Volt or something, I don't know. I forgot different companies have electric cars. It's not just Tesla, but Tesla is the coolest one, I would say. I mean, look at that, DeLorean doors. Right? Like, that's the best. Don't you love that?
Yeah.
Like the Back to the Future. Like, I would get that car just because of the DeLorean doors. They call them the Falcon Wing doors. I'm like, oh, that is so cool. But anyways, So these cars also have driverless capabilities, but we talk about that later. For now, let's just focus on the electric aspect. So the electric cars are very interesting both because of their environmental effects and their economic effects. So you might see like superchargers, the supercharging stations for the Teslas dotted around the country, and that's pretty cool. They are more common in some places than others, but they're increasing in popularity. And you really need to have these spaced pretty much as often as you have gas stations eventually if you want electric cars to compete like very well with just gas cars, because if you are driving, a normal car and it says E, like you're running out of gas, you're just a mile or two away from the nearest gas station. But depending on where you are in the country, if your electric car runs out of battery, you could be like dozens of miles away from the nearest gas station. So that's a difficulty, and that's an infrastructure thing. You need more infrastructure for it. But if you have an electric car, right, then you never have to worry about oil prices, for instance. You never have to, I mean, to a certain degree, you do because our energy largely comes from oil, but it allows you to be more like independent of the oil markets. So that would especially come if we start investing in renewables, or at least if we just start investing in, say, American oil, like if we produce our own oil instead of purchasing from other countries, then you wouldn't have any, like in the 70s, they had that big gas shortage where it's like no gas, bone dry. Have you seen those pictures?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some states instituted a law where it's like if the last number of your license plate is odd, you can only get gas on odd number days. And if it's even, you can only get it on even number days. Because they were just, the US, like a ton of countries, embargoed us of oil. And today we kind of have the opposite of that. Gas prices have gone very low. There's an increased supply of gas and a decreased demand because no one's driving right now, and because Saudi Arabia and Russia are in a bit of a price war right now on oil. So, but yeah, so the oil market can be very volatile, much like the substance itself. So it would be better to rely on electric cars, right? Because you don't need to worry about the oil as much if you have an electric car. So that's an interesting effect of electric cars. And I mean, it just helps the environment if you're not using as much oil. Of course, that means we would need our energy grid to be powered by more renewable sources too. But it is an important step, and I think it's very important. Do you have anything on these types of transportation?
Yeah. So with the manufacturing of like electric cars and stuff, like just talking about like Elon Musk and stuff.
Yeah.
People are coming to him like with all these ideas of like, hey, I want to customize the sound my horn makes when I like press it, Yeah. And they're like, oh, I want like the sound system to be better and all that stuff. All that like accessory stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's what's kind of like marketed more. More than other things,
Yeah.
It's all like, oh, this is the most comfortable car, or oh, this is the most like this car has the best sound system, or oh, when you like push the horn on this car, it makes like hee ha funny noise, right? Yeah. But we're gonna start seeing more advertisements like this, more like for like trains, for example. They're gonna be like, we have now built like this maglev train, and they're going to be marketing that aspect. For cars, it'll be like, we have the most functional like electric consumption system out of any other car. And they'll like, what I'm saying is that they're going to shift more off of that, like, the bells and whistles, as some people would say, and more the scientific aspect of how well it actually runs, which is great because then the competition kicks in and all the car companies and all the train companies try to outdo each other, which just means that more and more developments are made.
Yeah. The customization is great too. Like someone tweeted to Elon Musk, they said, can you make a dog mode for the car where it like keeps the air conditioning on and says the air conditioning is on? And then he added it. So like you can see Teslas have dog mode, like you can turn it to dog mode. So you can just leave your dog in the car. And it puts up a sign so that people won't break your windows on your expensive Tesla. So so I think that's pretty cool. Transportation is coming a long way. But yeah, it is an interesting, there are a few factors because development won't necessarily continue forwards. There's a few questions because you just have to consider what infrastructure is required to make this mode of transportation feasible. And you also have to ask yourself, is there actual economic demand for this mode of transportation? So tragically with the Concorde, the fact is no one really wanted, other than me, a supersonic jet. There weren't enough people to support it. There weren't enough people that would say, yeah, I'll pay 2-3 times as much to get there in 3 hours rather than 9 hours. Also, an interesting thing about the supersonic jet is that they couldn't fly it from New York to Los Angeles because of the sonic boom, because it would be screaming across the U.S. With that sonic boom, and people would complain. So you could only fly it over the ocean. So that's a practicality bit too. That might have, if it was able to, I don't know how this would be possible, but if it wouldn't bother people with the sonic boom somehow, then it could have probably done New York to Los Angeles, and that might have helped it, stay in the market. Doing domestic flights instead of just international, because international travel is not as common, I would say, than domestic travel. But yeah, so the point is, you need market demand to keep something viable. So even though we are capable of making safe passenger supersonic jets, you aren't necessarily going to see it because, economy and whatever. And it's the same thing with the maglev trains, except it's more of a infrastructure issue. And even electric cars have been sort of stunted by this infrastructure problem with the superchargers. So, yeah, all things to consider, but I think it's pretty cool. I hope personally that transportation gets more efficient, cheaper, faster, safer. I think that would be cool. But some people it doesn't need to be great. It just needs to be good enough, to fit into the economy. It just needs to be sustainable and survive. And if it isn't, then it won't take off, to use a plain metaphor. So yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep.
Terrible.
Yep. I said it.
Terrible.
Yep. But yeah, so that's transportation. Should I go to the next one?
Yeah.
All right.
I love this picture.
Me too.
It's incredible.
Yep. Yeah, so here we have communications versus transportation. And the premise here is, what if one day communications becomes so good that it's just as good as actually being there? So there's no reason ever to travel, right? That is a possibility with a few caveats. As we said, there's light lag, light delay. So if you were trying to communicate with someone on Mars, you would actually have to go there if you wanted to do a business meeting. But just like various places on Earth, communications technology might get to a point that there is no need to have transportation. So here's a theoretical example, right? So say that we develop nanomachines, right? We make little nanomachines that can form any shape, right? And we also create virtual reality technology that can perfectly simulate any experience, right? So what people might do is they might go in, they might get a scan, and then they can have their body, their physical body, molded into any nanobot swarm. So say they have a business meeting, say they live in New York, and say they have a business meeting in London. They might just put on their headset or whatever, and their perfect sensory simulator, and then a nanobot swarm will be molded into their shape in London, and then they can go to the office or whatever, go to the business meeting, and then sit down, and from their perspective, they are actually there, even though they're still just sitting in their room in New York. They are there in the business room, in the meeting room, and from everyone else's perspective, that's the same thing, because the nanobots would be just so capable at mimicking just any shape, right? So if that were possible, even if you had this is a Elon Musk thing, even if you had suborbital travel and you could get to London in 30 minutes with a ground-to-ground rocket, if you could do that, even if you could do that, and even if it was super cheap, it still wouldn't be done very often, because you could just have your mind sent to London inside this perfect replica of yourself. And you can do that just like this. And it would be a lot cheaper, you know.
You just killed half of humanity, dude.
Oh, no. I apologize. But yeah, it would be like a lot cheaper. It would be, say, a subscription fee, and you wouldn't have to take 30 minutes out of your day to get to London and then 30 minutes to get back, which is a crazy statement, by the way. 30 minutes from New York to London would be crazy. But if you had perfect communications technology that allow you to feel like you're there and allows everyone else to feel like you're there, then there is no need to have crazy transportation. So that's like a theoretical example of how communication and transportation might end up competing. Like, you don't think of them as like similar markets, you know? You never hear like Telecom or Comcast went out of business. This sort of...
That's definitely some Ray Bradbury type stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And like Ray Bradbury was an author. He was the one that wrote Fahrenheit, right? Yeah. So basically what he writes about is technology progressing to a level where it dehumanizes us. Mm-hmm. That's his big thing. And he wrote all that back in like the 60s, I think.
Uh-huh.
And it's really interesting because we get closer and closer to a Bradbury-esque reality because, reminds me of that school, or just if we can just go to school or we just do our job in one room, what's the reason to go outside? And obviously there's like health stuff. It's like, well, you need to exercise. Well, you need vitamin D, but we can supplement those things with like vitamins, you know? So there's really nothing saying, besides like maybe our general mental health. Yeah. There's nothing saying that in the future you can live your entire life in one room. And I actually explore that topic in my book. That's the chapter I'm on right now, is someone that has retreated basically into one room, into what they do is virtual reality, which is pretty much how people do their work or school in my little technological universe. And my universe is set very far in the future, but technology has progressed to a level in that book to which you can just do everything from your computer. And you know, that also like, it also reminds me of WALL-E, like the people in the chairs, you know, just zipping around.
I know. I felt like the WALL-E people recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got a chat. We got a question. We've got a Wandering Soul says, why bother transferring a person or their brain's equivalent instead of a computer capable of doing the same work? So yeah, obviously, if there's AI that's good enough at their particular job, that might be. That's, I guess, the AI aspect, you know, the teleoperation versus AI that we were discussing earlier. But it's still like, there are still likely to be jobs for humans in the future, like to a certain degree. At the very least, it would be executives owning a company that's like all the workers are robots, unless there's a robot revolution. But yeah, assuming there is any reason to have people working, this is a possibility. It's also a possibility to do virtual vacation on the cheap, you know? So you can, why fly to Hawaii, even if it only takes like 30 minutes or an hour to get to Hawaii? Why fly to Hawaii when you can just have Hawaii in your bedroom, you know? You can have, with your perfect sensory simulation of Hawaii, like, there would be no reason to actually go there. And that would be interesting, because if we get really good communications technology to the point that it's just perfect VR, that would completely kill the tourism industry. Maybe not completely, but like, I would say to a very high degree. There might still be like the authenticity question where people are like, I want to see the real Hawaii. But many other people will be like, it's pretty much the same and it costs 100 times less to just do the VR. But if you're going to look at a historical monument, like if you're going to go to see the Liberty Bell or the original Declaration of Independence or the Constitution, if you want to see something like physical, real like that in like a historical thing, that might still be worth like traveling for. But if we have really good VR technology, it will kill a lot of beach towns. That would not be good. For instance, I live in Florida, and a huge part of Florida's economy is based on tourism. So there's like very low. I think there might be no like state income tax. I think it's like just no state income tax. Obviously, I don't do taxes because I'm 15, so I don't
evasion.
Know. But and I don't make any money off of YouTube, so not yet. But yeah, so taxes are very low in Florida, and one reason is that we have high taxes on tourism. So there's a lot of like hotels are highly taxed, and just like sales tax and stuff like that. So perfect VR, like the perfect VR experience of a beach would be detrimental to Florida. And so the question would be, right, could you copyright a place? So say that you are like Palm Beach, Florida, right? Or say that you're the Hamptons, and you do not want to lose your business to these VR companies. Could you say, like, we have the right to our beach, and you cannot like make a digital copy of it unless you pay us a ton of money? Like, that's an interesting like legal debate that might come, because even if it's like a public beach, right? Could you imagine like you could get in trouble for like just recording the beach, just like taking a nice little video of the beach, because companies could like use that to reconstruct the beach or whatever. Yeah, and if that does get any legal precedent, like if a place does end up getting the right to its own like placehood, and like you would have to buy the rights to duplicate it, then what'll end up happening is you probably won't get any, or not, at least not many, real virtual copies of a beach. You'll just get like based on a Florida beach. You know what I mean? Like based on a true story. This movie's based on a true story. You'll get these like VR simulations that are like, okay, we've looked at 100 beaches and we kind of know, we have an idea of what beaches are like, so we can just make another beach and that can be ours. So these are very interesting like legal debates, and just crazy, like we have no reference frame for it here in the humble year of 2020. But this is where our technology may be headed, I mean, we've got these video calls. Say that like, someone was just had a video live stream of a beach, and I just logged onto that live stream, and I could just watch the beach for hours, and I could just
like
act
that's
like
a real thing.
Yeah, exactly.
There are real things where people just set up a camera and then just leave the live stream like continually going, and you just tune in and like sit there.
I'm pretty sure there are some TV channels too. But yeah, like there's also a lot of like treadmills or bicycles that are like, very smart, and they have like scenes that you can see like of a bike trail, so like you can bike down the bike trail instead of actually going there. So we are very close to these technologies. We've got a few more chat, so let's a few more chats. Yui Films says, "Who is Sales and why does he tax me?" Very insightful. A Wandering Soul says, "At this point in the future, places could be generated procedural on the fly. I doubt someone could successfully copyright the idea of a beach." Yeah, you couldn't copyright the idea of a beach, but you could probably copyright like Siesta or like Palm Beach, like beach, these number one beaches in the country. Like you could probably copyright like, that one beach in Hawaii with the black sand beach. You could probably copyright that as Hawaii, the Hamptons. So places could probably copyright themselves, but I agree, you can't copyright the concept of a beach. So yeah, you would likely just create beach. And yeah, it's interesting if you could procedurally generate infinite beach, right? Did you imagine that?
Oh my, yeah, I
You
didn't even
just
think of that. Yeah,
constantly go for a run, and you have like 1,000,000 miles of coastline, virtually. Like that's a possibility. But yeah, so it's very interesting what might be possible, and I love to look at the legal side of it, like how will our laws react to these different systems and like different capabilities. Like it's just so weird, but very cool. So yeah, that's communications versus transportation. That's all I have to say. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Um, like I was saying earlier, how this is like Bradbury-esque,
Yeah.
but I do feel like this is something like to look forward to.
Yeah.
Like something positive. Because, if we had this technology, I could like just go down to Florida and we could,
Yeah. We could
just do the stream.
live stream every day. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We would alternate. Yeah.
Yeah. But also think of it like this. Like, this isn't how it is currently, but when I was younger, my dad like had to be away for like a while because of like business stuff, because of like like travel and like stuff like that. And your dad too, he goes on a lot of international stuff, and he could do all that from home. Exactly. If we had this technology, he could do it from one room. He could just attend meetings. He could like go to some summit in China.
Yeah, exactly.
He could do any of that.
Yeah, like my father had like a few like 2-week business meetings, like 2-week business trips in India, where he had to go to India for like 10 days to 14 days, and I think he had that like 6 times. That was like a handful of years ago, but yeah, definitely. Like a lot of people have to travel for work. But they don't have to anymore if this technology becomes possible. So yeah.
It's just, my mind also just goes to like VR chat.
Oh yeah. I love
stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
it's great. VR
it would be so weird because like you could just be working side by side someone in a field, and then you just get off time, and you and the other person are talking both like through VR or through however you express that like communication technology, and you guys are just talking where you're from, and it turns out that your coworker who's working side by side with you is actually on the other side of the planet. It's just stuff like that which makes it, I don't know, like this is kind of also what we wanted to capture in this episode, is the social aspect of like, what will this technology do socially, you know? And like, obviously in this time of social distancing, it's like enforced by the government. But when this stuff comes out, social distancing might just become a regular thing.
Yeah.
Because there's really no reason to like talk with other people other than like general mental health and like enjoyment,
Yeah. Another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Another interesting thing is like, what would be considered appropriate like workplace attire, right? Because when you say VR chat, the first thing that comes up in my mind is like Kermit the Frog, right? So what if you just turn to your coworker and they're just like Kermit the Frog, and then you're like, this is unprofessional, could you not? So then your company might institute like, you have to use your own self as an avatar, right? But then what if someone's like, okay, well, right? Like what if they were like really in shape in their 20s, right? So they use their avatar from then and they just never update it, and they're like 50 years old and decrepit, right? And they're like totally out of shape, but they're like, I don't want to have to update my avatar. Like, you said I have to use myself. Like, I don't have to update it, but then they might be like, every 5 years you must update it. So the question is, how far can you just customize your thing? And this would just be on a workplace-to-workplace basis, because then there's also the possibility, right, of each individual person can have a completely different experience. So say you have like a texture pack or something, where like it turns everyone into like, I don't know, like aliens or something, right? Just because you're like yeah, aliens, and you just want that to be, and like you just turn your workplace into like a beach, but everyone else is in a normal cubicle. each person could customize their experience to be like exactly what they want. So they could like have each like coworker look like a different thing from each person. It could kind of become like madness and chaos and just too many factors to consider, and like nothing would be certain. Like people would lose their sense of reality. So there would probably have to be some regulation on it, but at the same time, I could very well see there being like anarchy servers. You know what I mean? So it's just like anything goes. Like the only true fact about this server is that 5 people are present, but one person may see everyone as aliens. One person may see everyone as like, I don't know, sentient lobsters, right? Just like go down the list. One person might be at a beach, another is like at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, and it's just like, what is going on?
Yeah, dude. And
Yeah.
my mind goes to Ready Player One. That's the name. Because that whole thing, people were just making their avatars left and right. Like you had people that were like, in the movie, there was like Tracer from Overwatch. She showed up. There was the fish girl. I forget what her name was. The main guy looked like I don't know what the hell he was on. He looked like Cloud from like Final Fantasy or whatever. But people were stylizing their avatars to like whatever degree, you know, like there was like there was that big buff dude who was actually like a woman in real life.
Yeah.
So there's like stuff like with genders changing, and just the representations and identities of everyone is just getting like mixed and mashed. And at the end of I didn't read the book, shamefully enough. I just watched the movie.
Yeah.
But
same here, unfortunately.
Yeah. At the end, he gains control of the entire I forget what they called it, but the entire VR chat space, and he instates this rule that you can like it gets shut off like every Tuesday or Thursday or something like that, but he shuts it off like 2 days a week. And I think that might actually have to happen in real life, because if we get this stuff, if we get this super high-end communication technology, and like I said, like social distancing becomes the norm, and you know, people start going a little cuckoo crazy, because you do get a little cuckoo crazy if you don't like see people, if you don't like touch people, all that stuff. I think like the government might have to like regulate that, you know, so that people don't completely lose their minds.
Yeah, I don't know though, because in that movie it was a little simplistic that there was just one server. Like this is the one. You can either, if you're online, you're on this. But if you look at online, like, you know, there's not just YouTube, there's Vimeo, there's Dailymotion. Yes, no one uses them, right? Like no one uses them. But like they are things that exist. They are alternative server. There's like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. There are all these different like apps. And then there are very niche, tiny apps. Like each Reddit has a subreddit. Some of them like not many people are on, right? So yeah, I don't know how you could regulate that. Because like, could you imagine if the government was like, all right, everyone, 2 days a week the internet is turned off, like the entire internet. Like I don't think they could do that. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but that's another side of it, because they could make that law, and then it would just be like prohibition, where everyone's like, okay, and they just open up Tor browser. I'm just saying that would probably be an action.
VPN.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That would be an action that the government would either like carry out or like at least think of in the future. You know, and even if they enforce it, like you're saying, it might not like do anything, because people can, you know, just hop on any other.
Yeah, pop over to Europe.
But
yeah.
Yeah,
well, it's interesting because it might also be like in the movie Ready Player One, like it's only used for games, you know. But like this would probably be used for business too. So if the U.S. like decided Tuesdays and Thursdays no internet, that wouldn't just be like, oh, all the gamers would be upset. It would be like businesses would crumble as they have to like use pen and paper for like 2 out of the 5 days of the week, just like for no reason. Yeah, like I'm not sure that would, like, I don't think that would happen, in my opinion. I think that's, like, I get it for the movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
In the world of the movie,
it's hard to predict, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But
It is hard to predict. But yeah, I guess we should address, too, I was thinking about this. We've kind of been talking about communications versus transportation. What if communications wins? But, like, what if transportation wins instead of communications? So this is another
we would have to
possibility.
get, like, teleportation for it to win, don't you think?
Maybe. Well, it depends. It depends on, like, their rates of change, I think, because as long as transportation is, like, just a little bit ahead of communication and it stays a little bit ahead, that'll, like, drain momentum from communication. You know what I mean? Like, one will drain momentum from the other because it'll hurt business. So even if you don't, like, tomorrow there's perfect teleportation technology, but as long as, like, transportation always remains ahead of communications, then communications will slowly, like, plateau. So that's a question, but yeah, like, say the Starship, Elon Musk, I mean, he wants to get that running by, like, he wants to have Mars trip by 2024 using the same rocket that he would use for suborbital travel. Someone paid him, like, a lot of money. They didn't disclose how much, but it's presumably a lot of money to have, like, a moon mission to go around the moon in 2023 with, like, 6 artists to create new art, which would be very interesting. I'm excited to see how that turns out. But if this, if the starships are ready for suborbital travel by, like, 2030, I mean, that would be a big, like, a huge change. He wants to make it, he wants to have the starships capable of doing 1,000 suborbital flights per year, which is, like, 3 per day. That's, like, airplane turnaround times. And so these things would be able to get you to, like, antipodes, so opposite sides of the Earth, in, like, an hour. So most places, half an hour, The longest possible trip would take you 1 hour. So, yeah, that's kind of crazy. I mean, like, how do you...
We do have chat.
Oh,
we do have more chat.
Okay. We got A Wandering Soul. It's more of a fantasy book, but Lifelight, Pendragon series, is a good read for this type of thing. So yeah, we got to check that out. I got to do a lot more reading. I've been, like, I've had, like, all my energy sucked out of me, Wandering Soul also says, the book, The Ready Player One world, was used for school and business as well. Okay, it was. Yeah, I guess they didn't get that in the movie. But yeah, so that's interesting. But yeah, as I was saying, I'm, like, so, like, energy, just, like, it's weird, because when you're not doing as much, it, like, reinforces not doing as much, and then you're just, like, passively, like, staring off into the distance, but it's fine. I'll notify you guys of my progress next week, Yeah. I will be attempting to get good. So anyways,
we can pop over to the next one.
Oh yeah, sure. But yeah. So yeah, what if transportation wins? That'd be interesting. Like, what if there was teleportation? Like, I think.
Yeah, we're just not thinking with portals.
You're not thinking. Now you're thinking with portals. Here's an interesting one. Before we go to the next slide, like, for teleportation stuff. So what if you had, like, airports, right? But so you have this huge, like, hub, and every city has, like, a ton of portals in it, and this portal only goes to this central hub. Then you navigate through the central hub, which is, like, I don't know, it's a complex, maybe it's a few miles wide, and you go to, like, the Sydney, Australia portal, and then you're like, Sydney's cool. Then you, like, walk back in, and then you're in your, like, central facility again, and then you're like, let's see how Madrid's doing, and then you, like, pop back in. But yeah, that becomes more fantastical because the physics isn't in. Like, we don't know. VR, like, that's confirmed. Like, that could be possible. That's just a technological thing. Like, that's just about computing capabilities. Suborbital travel, that is physically possible. Like, it's just firing a missile at another country, but the missile has people in it. And it's meant to land instead of explode. But portals and teleportation is not as certain. So yeah, we should stray away, I guess, because that's a bit more like sci-fi. Like that's more
with portals. My main fear would be someone labels a portal like Britain, right? And I'm like, oh, I'll check out how Britain is, and I walk through the portal and I end up in someone's van, and I'm like, this ain't Britain.
This ain't Britain. Yeah. What if they like kidnap you by just like breaking into your house and replacing one of your doorways with a square portal? If that's, if you could just determine the shape of the portal. But like they break into your house while you're away, and they make your front door like a portal to their like bunker in like Antarctica or whatever, right? Or like, and so like you walk through it, or it's like in like Monsters Inc. when he like walks through the door and then I don't know, he's in the snowy place, like Antarctica or whatever. You could just like assassinate someone like that. You could just like replace their door with like a door that just leads to like Antarctica, and then they like walk through it, and then the like set piece falls away, and they're like, oh shoot! Then you close the portal, and then they're just stuck in like Antarctica, and then they die. So yeah, portals are. I do love portals as a concept, though. They are such a fun concept to work with, even though they like don't like they're not confirmed, and it's not necessarily a futuristic thing. It's more of a fantastical thing. I still love portals. I love to do portal stuff. I'm like, I want to make a portal book. Like, I want to have a book that utilizes portals. It probably won't be in the Maxcraft or Gravity Max, whatever it's called, whatever it comes to be named. The universe, the scholastic literary universe of works of like a truly dead rock, because I don't want to introduce like non-confirmed physics necessarily, so the portals will be its own spin-off thing. But yeah, that's an interesting possibility. Yeah. But yeah, all right. Anyways, I'll go to the next one. Okay.
All right, military. So for the longest while, we, and when I say we, I especially mean the U.S., we've been just dumping so much money into the military, like 50%, 49% of our budget. The federal budget goes like directly to the military, and it's for like not only just for like resources like ammunition and like metal and stuff like that, it's also for like development, like research development, all that kind of stuff.
I think it's called, right? The research branch.
Yeah, I think. And it's making stuff like this. So we have three things in front of us right here that we're going to talk about. So the first thing, you see the lady putting on that extra like strap around her. That's meant to depict the body armor changes that have become like a lot of research has gone into like protection. How do we protect soldiers like from fire and stuff like that? So the newest advancements are lacing the normally, like, I forget what the equipment for military body armor is. I could search it up after, but they've started putting silicone in it, which like reinforces it. And
I thought was it? Are you talking about like that boron thing?
It was boron something.
Yeah,
I forget. Here I could.
Yeah, it was really strong. I remember. It was like borate something or other.
Yeah, maybe. So they do use Kevlar, but
Kevlar. They should put Kevlar in Minecraft.
Yeah,
it should be stronger than diamond armor. That would be an interesting one. But yeah. So what else?
So yeah, they use a high variation, a high diversity of stuff. We were looking at that boron thing. I'm not like seeing it here, but there's a lot of different body armor materials actually, and right now what some of the budget is being used for is figuring out how to make them better. Like currently, we're at the point where it can stop. Like it doesn't stop, but it protects you from bullets from like assault rifles. Specifically the one labeled was a Kalashnikov and AK-47. It can like protect you from like a decent amount of those bullets, but obviously it won't protect you from like a mortar strike or something like that, but it's the protection of our soldiers that a lot of the budget goes to. And so that's the defense. And then we have the offense, which is the one all the way on the right, which is exoskeletons, which are just the dopest things ever.
I love exoskeletons.
Exoskeletons have been marketed at making both soldiers and workers 27 times more efficient than they already are.
Yeah, so, this is like Iron Man stuff. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it basically helps you run faster, lift more, and just be better in general. It's like an immediate alpha Chad like transition.
Yeah.
So you're able to, like right there on the right, you see it's like around his legs. That would make him like run faster, because it's like, he's just going with the attachments that allow him to just pick up more speed and allow him to use less like exertion and that kind of stuff. But like specifically for the military, this just basically makes super soldiers. Like that's kind of the easiest way to think about it.
Yeah.
Like imagine you get like 5 soldiers together all with exoskeletons on and they can flip a tank. It's like crazy.
Yeah, it reminds me of they had these exoskeletons in like the Insignia series in the second one and the third one probably, but they were introduced in the second one, I remember. They were so cool, the exoskeletons, because you could just like makes you so much stronger and it makes you faster, like jump higher. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And like the whole technological basis is so cool. But yeah, I'm trying to think of like the impact on this in like day-to-day life. So how like accessible do they want to make it? Like how common? Is this just a thing that the military uses, like a tank? Like the average, you can legally buy a tank. However, it's not like, oh, it's our friend Joe in town. Every town has one. Joe Schmo with the tank, right? But like...
Yeah, I think it's going to follow the natural progression of stuff, which is starts in the military, goes to businesses, goes to smaller businesses, general public, right?
So like
that's like what the internet did, basically. Okay. So I think that exoskeletons are going to be developed in the military. They have, but they're going to be like perfected and stuff like that. Then it's going to go to like workers working for big companies like Amazon, so they can like move more packages and stuff. And I just thought of Death Stranding when I said that because he's got his little. And then it's going to go into the general public. But it probably still won't be that widespread to the general public because, like, in my daily life, I sit down at a computer and I record a video or I do this live stream or I do homework. I don't really need the capacity to lift 4 elephants,
exactly.
Or run at, like, insane speeds. But I think it will become available to the general public just as an option, but I don't think it will really have much use other than if like someone wants to pull off a heist or like something.
Oh gosh,
a heist.
I'd like to add to that, but we do have chat. I'm just gonna, but then I'll add to that. Okay, so we've got a wandering soul. From an ethical standpoint, teleporting is fine when you look at it just as that. However, it sounds really unethical if it kills you here and like builds a robot clone elsewhere. Yeah.
Robot clone. I
love that.
Oh, that went a direction I wasn't prepared for. I was fine with just clone. What, robot clone?
Yeah, no, robot clone would be straight out murder. When I was talking about like the VR like travel like communications before, it doesn't destroy you. It's just you're controlling a robot from New York. But yeah, straight up teleportation where it like Star Trek type where it like just kills you and then rebuilds you again. That's the ship of Theseus argument.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah, I don't know how you would. So you teleport, but you know full well that this teleportation breaks you down and then recreates you elsewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do that.
I would be fine with it if we're not talking robot clone, if we're just talking
Regular
like exact copy of yourself, I wouldn't care. You know, like there's that whole argument with consciousness, but either I'm still there or like I get a break while literally me exactly just runs around. You know,
I would probably prefer the route of like mind uploading and then you can move at the speed of light, because you can just be sent as like a data stream rather than like, yeah. So if there's teleportation where like you can actually like teleport to Alpha Centauri in like a second and not 4.2 years, right? That would like break physics, right? But like it might be possible, but like according to like current physics, right? Light speed's your limit. So I would just, have like upload your brain to a hard drive, make like 1,000 copies of that hard drive just in case, like, I don't know, someone takes a hammer to the hard drive, right? But yeah, then you can go between places. You don't have to like sit on a rocket ship and wait for it to accelerate. You can just like get zoomed over as a data stream. That would be interesting. But yeah, back to this, right? I think it's incredibly cool. So, you know how this is one practical application I can think of. I just thought of like on the top of my head, right? So, you know how people like they'll take their dog for a walk, but dogs like to run at very fast speeds that we are not capable of. So, what if you just have your neighbor, right? And, everyone has an exosuit and they just zoom by your house at like 30 miles an hour because their dog wants to run at that speed and they can keep up with their dog at that speed. And they're just like, instead of walking their dog, they're running their dog. Because like dogs probably prefer to like run at that speed than to just like walk and amble around. So people would probably use these exosuits to just like, to run super fast. Effect. Thank you. Yeah. Like Captain America when he wakes up,
Yeah.
And on your left.
On your left.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't you say it.
Don't say it. But yeah.
Yep.
I also love a Wandering Soul's name because I don't know if you remember, from our Technology of War live stream, the psychological warfare that was used during the Vietnam War was called Operation Wandering Soul.
Yeah.
And that's still like literally like the scariest noise I've like ever heard, And if you imagine that you're in a forest in the middle of warfare and you hear like ghosts, man, like that'll mess with your head.
I wonder if
that just came into my mind.
Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, so exoskeletons, because it also might be depending on how like simple of a machine they are. Think if you don't have a parking spot. You don't want to buy a car. If this is somehow less expensive, then you could walking commute to work, instead of, because like typically if you're going to walk to work, you need to be like a few blocks away. But if you have this exoskeleton, you could just, you could like 30 miles an hour to work. But then the question is, if there are like exosuit people, you're going to need like a third lane, or really a fourth lane. We have our car lanes, we have our bike lanes, and we have our like pedestrian lanes, which is the sidewalk. So it's not technically a lane, but it is a lane if you think about it. The sidewalk is just another lane. So you would have to have another lane of like speed limit, like 30 miles an hour exactly, Like, you can't go faster and you can't go slower because that would interfere with like the exoskeletons. So that would take up more road space. Maybe it would be underground, like Elon Musk's Boring Company. Have you seen that? Yeah, it might be like something like that. Because where would you fit in this new like section of society? Or maybe they could fit in with the bike lane. Like maybe you have to go at the appropriate like bike lane speeds, but it's bike and exosuit people lane. Wouldn't that be interesting? So yeah, you just exosuit to work, and then you get to work and you just like take off your exosuit. Or like you walk into work, your boss is like, "You're a minute late." You just like punch them out the window.
Like from the Incredibles, where he just throws him.
Yeah, exactly. Because you have like giant exosuit armor capabilities. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. So the third thing we have up here is those missiles. So you see subsonic, supersonic, and hypersonic. So basically, these are just all different speeds, right? The main factor here is speed, and I don't know if you can see what does it show up. Like it's a little blurry, but it says that subsonic missiles go at less than Mach 0.8, and that's like 0.17 miles per second. Wow. Still pretty fast.
Yeah, that's pretty fast.
Supersonic missiles go from Mach 1 to Mach 5. So that's a quarter of a mile to 1 mile per second. Wow. And hypersonic missiles are Mach 5 and above, and they are greater than 1 mile per second.
Wow,
so
that's crazy.
Basically, the obvious implication, there were rumors of North Korea having ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, but the other portion of that was that some people said that it might be hypersonic. And I don't think it turned out to be. I think it is just either sub or supersonic missiles, or it might not even be that. It might be like slow as hell. But the reason everyone was scared about that is because if you have a hypersonic missile and you put it at the right trajectory, there's a chance that it could get by our defenses because it's literally just moving that fast. So then you get into kind of an arms race, with hypersonic missiles, because, if just like the Cold War, if Russia thinks that we have hypersonic missiles, they're going to do their damnedest to build up some hypersonic missiles, So it's just the next evolution of warfare, and it's just that much quicker, and it's like that much more effective, and it might even, we might get to the point where missiles are so fast we label them as just straight up war crimes because there's literally no way that you could defend from it because it's just moving so fast. Mach 5 is greater than 1 mile per second. That is so incredibly fast.
Yeah.
That it's mind boggling,
Yeah.
Here, if you're in, I just want to see this. Let me bring up the maps real quick.
Yeah, sure.
I've never Googled this before. I do want to see it.
Yeah, what distance would it travel in X amount of time? Well, that's 3,600 miles in an hour. So 3,600 miles per hour. That would be coast to coast plus a little more for the U.S.
Yeah, so that's an average of that. So divide that by 60. Yeah, okay, so if I was going at the speed that this missile is, I could knock on your door going at this speed in about 21 minutes.
Nice.
Which is just crazy to think that I could make my way from where I live all the way down to Florida in just 20 minutes. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, these are crazy.
But yeah, no, it's just and you got to think of it like this, because out of everything we've talked about, this is the closest, because like I said, the military gets 50% of the budget, right, in the U.S., and it gets a substantial amount of the budget in many other countries, right? So when you have that much money, billions upon billions of dollars, adding up to trillions upon trillions of dollars, you get like advancements that like start flying in like fast, you know? Like there's a reason that the internet was started by the government, by the military, excuse me, because they had all this money that was being invested. And so in 1983, they made this breakthrough with computers talking to each other.
ARPANET.
You know,
yeah,
the internet, yeah, or ARPANET, yeah,
yes,
and it's just crazy like that. And like I said, there is that trickle down, like not to use that term, but it starts in the military, goes to businesses, smaller businesses, general public.
Yeah, that sense, and then it gets like cheaper and cheaper over time. Yeah.
I'm not saying that I could go down to Walmart and buy myself a hypersonic.
Well, a nuclear like payload is like feasibly you could make it small enough to just keep it in a suitcase. So you just say like you go to a city. I mean, obviously the TSA would be like, "Sir, you have a nuclear weapon in your suitcase," but like.
No, they don't stop you. There's just a guy behind you with a water bottle.
You got a water bottle.
And they're like, "Hey."
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, they stop you and you're like sweating like, oh jeez. And like, you can't bring this water bottle. But no. But like, say someone could just like leave that at a random alley in a city and then just like the city gets nuked. I think that was like a plot conflict in like a Batman movie at some point. Right? He had to fly the nuke.
There was a bomb in the third Dark Knight thing.
Yeah.
With Bane and it wasn't that good.
Okay. But well, so in the book 11/22/63, the Stephen King book, in the dystopian timeline, when he messes everything up, like terrorists just leave like a nuke in Miami and then like a suitcase nuke and it just like destroys Miami, makes it uninhabitable for like 80 years. But the Earth is going to be destroyed before that even occurs. So no worries, right?
Nukes are crazy, man. I said this when we were talking about the technology of war, but like the blast moves so fast that it moves from like one end of your body to the other end before one neuron can fire. And that's just like crazy.
Yeah.
To think, because it's just like I might see a little glow coming from behind me. I'm like, what is that? And then that's like game,
Yep.
But yeah, to think that it can be compartmentalized in that small of a space, that's crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Like, that is a concern. I don't know how that hasn't been more of a concern. I guess it's like hard to get your hands on nuclear material. But then at the same time, there's like there's stories like the radioactive Boy Scout. You've heard of that?
I've not.
So this Boy Scout, he was just like, for some reason there's a like nuclear chemistry badge or something in the Boy Scouts program. Like that's a badge you can get. And it's supposed to be like, oh, you did a research project about a nuclear power plant in your town, right? Something innocent like that. This kid was like really obsessed like with nuclear technologies, and he bought like hundreds of smoke detectors which contain small amounts of radioactive material, and he built a small nuclear reactor in his shed, and then right, and then he got caught, obviously, because that's a fairly noticeable thing. And it turned out like his entire neighborhood was like contaminated with radiation, like not Chernobyl levels, obviously, but like he had endangered many people, and like they were gonna send him to prison, but like he's a kid, so they're like, okay, you just don't do it again, bucko.
That's a super villain right there. Yeah. That is a super villain.
It's a crazy story. Like his parents didn't even notice. They're like, "Oh, you're gonna do your chemistry in your shed." Oh.
Yeah, they just pop in on him from time to time when they see him building this nuclear reactor. And they're like, "Hey, son, do your homework." And he's like, "I must finish my work," and all that.
I know.
But that's so hysterical.
I know, it's a crazy story. I think he tried to do it again, and then
He is a supervillain.
I don't know. I think he tried to do it again in his 20s. Like, don't try this at home, okay? But you can buy like 400 smoke detectors and remove the nuclear material from them.
Oh yeah, that's what he did, right?
Yeah, that's what he did.
Yeah.
He smoke detector. It's like I forgot. Is it thorium? It can't be thorium. That's too like heavy duty. Maybe it's radon.
The thing that's
I don't know.
Smoke detectors.
I forgot what it is, but smoke detectors contain radioactive material. I don't know what the purpose is, but I know that they do. So
it is americium.
Okay, americium.
Americium 241.
Okay. Does it say like why they use that in smoke detectors? Like, what does it do for the smoke detector, other than make it a nuclear hazard?
Yeah, I'm reading it up. Yeah, so the radioactive Boy Scout's name was David Hahn, and in 1994 he made that reactor. So,
yeah.
It's literally just not telling me how it works, but
I guess it doesn't want to. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really just talking about how David was able to just make a nuclear reactor in his garage. It's crazy.
Yeah, crazy story. I mean, so
on a more uplifting note, we can go to the next slide.
Oh, sure.
Something that helps humanity.
Yeah, but like the question is, right? If a kid can do that and can make like a nuclear reactor that's supposed to create energy, what might a well-funded terrorist organization be able to make?
Well, now you can't buy like that many smoke detectors, right? Or like the IRS or someone like attacks you. Like I think they made that a law. Like you can't buy all that stuff.
I know, but like you get like 10 friends to buy 1/10 the needed smoke detectors each.
Is that a plan, Max?
No. That's a hypothetical. I am not plotting any conspiracies here. I don't want to be charged with plotting conspiracy, but I'm just saying it is frightening that, because like you like to think that like some dangerous, deadly thing is something that an individual person couldn't be capable of creating, but you so easily could, but don't. But I'm just saying, it's frightening. I'm gonna move to the next slide before I get freaking swatted like from talking about this too much. Anyways, yeah, military stuff, cool. Okay, medicine. This is fun. Remember when they did surgery on a grape? And everyone was like, it was such a meme, and it was very annoying. And everyone's like, they did surgery on a grape. But that is actually an important technology. So medicine currently and in the very near future, we are developing capabilities of machines that are better at surgery than human hands. And, you know, the surgery on a grape was a machine called the Da Vinci machine, and it's, way more capable than humans at surgery. So you could do like microsurgery, like crazy stuff that human hands wouldn't be capable of. And it could either be teleoperated by a doctor, or it could be, or like a surgeon, or it could be just AI. So it depends. And then the other aspect here is there are a ton of like health apps, fitness apps that can monitor your health. And in conjunction with devices like smartwatches or Fitbits, they might make it possible for you to have like medical monitoring. So imagine you have a really good like fitness tracking device and it's hooked up to your phone, and like you wake up one morning and then it's like, you should go to the doctor. Just like you probably you should probably go to the doctor. Things like that might be possible, but it would probably be good to have that forewarning. Yeah, but So yeah, the medical industry is very interesting. There's also some like augmented reality, virtual reality stuff where there's this video of like where this doctor, he's explaining the function of this protein, and he physically like has the AR, like the protein is like in front of him, and he has his AR goggles on, and he's like, okay, you got to look at this protein, and he zooms in, and it's just floating there in the air. So I find that pretty cool. But yeah, there's a lot of new medical capabilities. So yeah, what do you think just generally on this topic? I'll go more in depth. I have some just quick thoughts. What do you think?
I love this picture on the right because this guy could just be like, yeah, Animal Crossing as he's like performing brain surgery.
Hey, yeah, exactly. No, he's playing Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah. He's just in VR chat.
Chat.
Yo,
Kermit.
What should my next move? Yeah, he is the Kermit.
Yep. I said this off stream, so I'm going to say it on stream. I am going to commit medical malpractice.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Oh, God. But, yeah, no, stuff like this is, like, crazy, because, like, I keep talking about my book.
Yeah.
But my book uses VR, like, a lot, you know, because I truly do believe that VR is the future, and that's kind of what this picture is like showing. Because like once you have small enough cameras, they can go in anywhere. You hook them up to your VR and you can see the world.
Yeah.
But it can help so much, especially with brain surgery. If you can get cameras into the tissue, like you can go around and like doctors can work with that much precision. Like even if we don't go the direction of like the Da Vinci machines initially, it can enhance our abilities as just medical practitioners like so much, Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's what I gotta say.
I like the app and fitness aspect, like the fitness device aspect. That always gets me, like dystopia talk, right? So like, what if the government like spies on like, what if everyone gets these like really good fitness trackers, like not just Fitbits where it's like your heart rate is like 70 BPM or something like that, right? But like it gets your blood pressure, it gets like LDL cholesterol, like somehow it's just a device that's like, that would probably have to end up going subdermal, but like a device that's like constantly running blood tests on you. If this were like an individual opt-in thing, that would be very good for like helping people catch diseases early. If you have a subdermal, like a subdermal chip or something, and it connects to your phone. And of course, yes, very dystopian, I must say. Like, that sounds like a very dystopian thing. But if you just try and emotionally detach yourself from this for a moment and just imagine it as not a thing that the government would use to spy on you, but like something you would opt into, right? Which, not realistic. The government will always spy on you. But assuming the government is not super malicious, right? It's only moderately malicious. It's not China level malicious. It's US level malicious, right? You could have this connect to your phone, and it could tell you like you have an increased risk of a heart attack, or like there are warning signs, like there are proteins in your blood that suggest you may have like a malevolent tumor, something like that. Because those are things that might show up in the blood. Or like it could even just like give you diet suggestions, just like your iron level is low. Here are 10 steakhouses near you, right? Like, could you imagine that? Like, that would be very like advanced, and that would be pretty helpful. I would think to people that would be pretty helpful.
Like that would be another thing I would look forward to. I wouldn't see that as like a negative thing because it's not like the government is like go to steakhouse, God, it's just saying that exactly. It's just recommending that you do stuff. Now I could just using my big brain, I can think of the possibility where it might be like it might be bought out so that like someone commits fraud and it's like your watch always tells you, well, looks like your whatever levels are low, time to go to Wendy's, and it just always tells you to go to Wendy's no matter like what, because Wendy's paid up like to badmouth Wendy's. Even though your food's garbage, but it's like
we're gonna get the Gravity Max Twitter is gonna get a mean comment, a mean tweet.
Yeah, but I can see that happening. But in a reality where stuff like that doesn't happen, I would welcome this technology personally. And there are people that would be like, "Oh no, that's dystopian. That's cursed. I hate that." Like, no, I would welcome that because
if it was done properly.
I take anatomy right now. I have friends like my parents' friends that are like in medicine and stuff, so I do have all this like available information, and I still don't know what the hell I'm doing with my diet, So if I had like a tracker that is like connected to my blood and it's like, hey, like user Sebastian Molino, maybe you should drink 32 bottles of ranch dressing per week. I would be like, that's shocker. I would be like, I never realized.
Exactly.
All of my years upon years of education.
I could also tell you like you've had 2,000 calories today. Like you really don't need any more. Like if you want to maintain your weight. Like it could be very useful for something as simple as dieting. But
think of like diabetics.
Exactly.
Like they have stuff like they already kind of have that technology that's like connected to their blood sugar. Like one of my teachers is a type 1 diabetic, and he has something that is connected to his blood, and it just like beeps, and then he has to take like an insulin shot, and then it's like fine, or he has to drink a juice box. And it's like, I don't know, stuff like that. If it was available to every like citizen or every person, it's like great.
So it would be very useful for chronic medical conditions, and just the general public, like both. This could be very, very profitable in the future. It could be like a lot of people would want it, I could imagine. Like I personally would want it, but I would do some very severe research first. I would be like, is this just Facebook? Okay, it's not Facebook. Good, right? But because you could get problems where, for instance, your medical providers, your healthcare, like your insurance providers, somehow get wind of the information in your device and are like, your premiums are going up. And you're like, but hopefully there would be laws to protect against that.
Guess I'll die.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think currently under U.S. law, I think like an insurance provider cannot discriminate based on weight, which is interesting because like weight is a big like health risk factor. Like, if someone is obese, it results in like more heart disease, like diabetes. But health insurance providers need to like look at everyone. Like they can't like discriminate based on weight. So that means everyone's medical like costs will be the same, assuming there are no other pre-existing conditions. If someone's overweight and that causes them to have like heart disease or diabetes, then that will reflect in their premiums. But a healthy like 200-pound person and a healthy 100-pound person will like both have equal health insurance costs, because even though it's more likely that the 200-pound person might end up like getting medical problems. So you might see similar laws here where medical companies are like legally not allowed to discriminate based on like tracked blood pressure or whatever. And that would be interesting because I could definitely see a court case in the future where it's just another Cambridge Analytica thing, except this company sold your medical data to your insurance providers, and your insurance providers changed your rate. That would be a huge, huge scandal, huge like trial. I could totally see that happening. a few instances in the future, don't you think? Like, I could see that.
Yeah.
But hopefully, I don't think it would turn dystopian. I think, like, justice will be served. That's what's going to happen, in my opinion. Or at least, I hope, right? So, yeah, I think it would be pretty cool, though, because it could tell you, like, you need more vegetables, you need more fruits, you need more vitamin C, you're going to get scurvy. It could also, if it's doing a constant blood test, it could also say, you just got the flu. If that expresses in a blood test, I'm not sure how well that would. But you have flu antibodies that are going through your body right now. You probably have the flu. You should go to the doctor. And this could arise before symptoms even occur. Same thing with coronavirus, right? If everyone already had this, it would say you would just get the next update, this next software update. And it would say, you have the coronavirus even though you're asymptomatic. You gotta, like, go to the doctor, like, to get whatever. Like, you gotta self-quarantine and stuff like that. But then again, that's another dystopian thing, because, like, some governments have been considering, like, immunity cards where, like, to be allowed to go outside again, you either need to have had the coronavirus or, like, get the vaccine once the vaccine becomes available. So, like, you'll have an immunity card, which would be a little dicey, right? I would qualify that as a little dicey. What do you think?
Yeah. That's definitely a little on the dicey scale.
A little dicey. Yeah, a little bit.
But while talking about precautions towards viruses and biological stuff, our next slide.
Oh, yeah, sure. All right. Next.
You like that segue?
I do like that segue. Yes, biowarfare / bioterrorism.
Yeah.
So, we are not talking about the current pandemic. That is a naturally occurring virus, okay? YouTube, don't destroy us, okay? We are
that top left picture is me and the boys re-entering high school.
Me and the boys, yeah. Yeah, I don't want to be accused of, like, fake news. So, we are just talking about the possibilities. We're not saying that this is currently going on, okay? It's a natural virus. Okay, so CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing technology has allowed for scientists to very, like, specifically target genes in living cells and change them. So you don't even need to create a new GMO. You can, like, change something while it's developing, which is pretty cool. But it's also kind of scary because if you look at the bottom right, you can buy a CRISPR gene editing kit for $170 on Amazon. So this isn't even like, it's not even 400 smoke alarms. It's one kit for $170. You can get a, like, bacteria gene editing kit, which is, it's scary, I would say. I would call that scary because this means that just average individuals could be capable of engineering, like, deadly viruses. I mean, it was a problem when, I think there were controversies in the past where, like, people have mailed, like, anthrax or something to political, like, officials, to, like, government officials, yeah. Right? But imagine people are just creating their own viruses and bacteria and just sending them. You could also end up with, like, a ransom situation where some terrorist group is like, we have just created a deadly virus and we have the vaccine, and if you don't give us $5 million, $5 billion, say, in the next 10 days, U.S. government, we are going to unleash this on your population, and you will have nothing, you won't be able to do anything about it. Like, could you imagine that? Say they hack into, like, Times Square, and they just broadcast this message. Because if they were to just, directly wire the U.S. government could be like, yeah, okay, let's just slide that under the rug, right?
Yeah.
But if they really wanted to cause chaos, and this is hypothetical, I am not trying to conspiracy Okay?
This man
I am not
is a
trying to
terrorist.
conspiracy anybody.
I have been held hostage for the past 2 seasons of the Gravity Max live stream.
I am speaking entirely hypothetically here. This is from the perspective of a science fiction writer. I'm talking about story ideas, okay? So, calm, please.
Plans.
Please. However, if an organization like wanted to cause chaos, they could just broadcast this at like Times Square. They could be like, U.S. government, we have a deadly virus, and we have the vaccine, and we are going to release this virus onto your population unless you give us $5 billion. And then everyone's panicked, obviously, and then the government has to do it. What are they going to do? Not give the money when everyone knows about it? Because if everyone knows about it, then there would be riots in the streets if they didn't give the money. There would be riots anyways. It would just be chaos. So this is frightening. However, it's also like happy, good, like we can cure hereditary genetic diseases, yay. But then at the same time, right? It's like Einstein never intended for the nuke to be possible. When he was talking about E=mc², he thought it could be used for clean energy generation instead of fossil fuels or whatever, right? They weren't considering that back then, but it was more just like, look at all this energy. They weren't considering global warming. That wasn't until like the 70s. But they were considering like you could get this energy like very cheaply. But then the U.S. government's like, we could turn that into a bomb, couldn't we? And then one Manhattan Project later, you've got the nuclear bomb. So
one I am become death speech later.
Yeah. So this is frightening, although I do like to be like optimistic, because I think that would be pretty cool. Because say that just like the average person, like I'm trying to think of something. Like say that you have a genetic predisposition. I cannot speak. A genetic predisposition to gaining weight, right? Like you have a bad metabolism. It's hard to like lose weight and stay fit. You could just get a CRISPR shot that's like, this will give you the omega, like the optimal metabolism, so you can kind of eat whatever you want and you stay thin. Like, those people, do you have any friends that like they eat whatever they want and they still stay thin somehow? Like you can get that, and that would greatly improve people's like quality of living, and it could extend your life too, because we might figure out like a gene that makes our immune systems like very good at fighting cancer, and then whenever anyone gets cancer, it's just a shot. There's actually this Kurzgesagt video, Kurzgesagt, as you like to say, the channel with the weird name, Kurzgesagt video on like a lot of gene editing stuff, and there's this like little like cutaway clip where this kid is like in a doctor's office and he's like, "Mom, I don't want to get a shot. It's just cancer," right? As like that might be a situation that exists, and then the mother is just like, "You fool. You do not know."
Back in my day, people died from cancer.
It was like 20% of like deaths in America. But yeah, then say we figure out like a heart disease like reducer or whatever. Like however we figure out how genes work, we're going to learn a lot about, we've sequenced the human genome, but that doesn't mean that we know what each letter means. So we've finally gotten the book on print, but it's written in Sanskrit, like we have no idea what it says. We figured out some things like
Sanskrit.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to offend anyone by saying like a language that is currently used, because then they could be like, "How dare you?"
Yeah.
So Sanskrit. I don't think anyone is offended that I don't understand Sanskrit, right? So
the one Sanskrit speaking person watching.
Sanskrit. Yeah. Exactly. Well, however Sanskrit sounded like. Yeah. So but yeah, we have the book, but we don't understand the whole thing, and we don't understand the complex interplay of our genes. Like we might try to do like a cosmetic thing where someone's like, I want like to have naturally blonde hair, right? And then you do that, and then now they have like ferrokinesis, and they're just Magneto like lifting Golden Gate bridges and dropping them everywhere. Um, so we have to figure out how our genes work a bit better. But yeah, this technology could be very good. So yeah, but it could also be very bad, as I was saying. But let's focus on the good. It would be pretty cool, I think. But it could also be like interesting.
Yeah, can I quote you on that? Gravity Max on a slide labeled Biowarfare / Bioterrorism says
true.
It would be pretty cool, I think.
Oh no. Yeah, it would be pretty cool, I think. Oh boy, out of context.
Like if someone takes 1 second from every Gravity Max live stream episode, they just take that.
Oh no. It would be pretty cool. I keep repeating. No, I don't think it would be pretty cool. That didn't help, did it? Okay, whatever.
Dude, this episode makes you look like you're gonna team up with David, and you guys are gonna guys are going to just plan some heist. You take out the entire country.
Yeah, Ruden's 11. Yeah, exactly. Oh my god. No. Anyways, genetic editing, it could be used for good and it could be used for evil. But yeah, so like, how when someone, like it's always the stereotype in like shows where someone like, oh, they're like a fugitive or whatever, and like they've like dyed their hair a different color and like put on colored contacts or whatever. What if you could just get 2 shots and then bam, your eyes literally just like slowly as the cells break down and then are replaced naturally, it just like changes color. And then as your new hair grows in, it's like blonde instead of brown. Mm-hmm. And then you like, as you get the next haircut, you're just like, now you're a blonde. Instead of having to like dye your hair or something. That might be interesting. So yeah, I actually have in a Truly Dead Rock is like a lot of like, shallow people, they use this like great genetic editing technology just for like cosmetic purposes. So they're just like, I want to look good, right? And it's like the U.S. government or like internationally, they put this like moratorium on where it's like you cannot start a for-profit company that like gives people like cosmetic gene editing, right? So then this person starts this like charity where the way that they fund the charity is using the cosmetic gene editing surgery, but all the money goes to like help people with actual genetic conditions that like can't afford the treatment, right? So it's like a charity, but then it slowly becomes corrupted, and eventually, like in the modern day, a Truly Dead Rock world, the company is just a cosmetics company. Yeah. So that's interesting. But yeah, so would you gene edit? Would you get all your genes improved if you could? Like every gene?
Yeah, I want to be taller. Immediately.
I'm not sure how that would be
executed. I'm 5'10" right now, but I get discriminated against because of my height. Mm-hmm. It must be hell for you, but I get discriminated.
Yeah, I don't care.
But like, I would definitely I wouldn't risk my life over gaining like the 2 inches I need to pass 6 feet,
Yep.
But like, you would wait for it to be safe and like, going back to, we've talked about this a lot, the Chinese man who cured those 2 kids of like HIV, who like gene edited their cells. Reason everyone freaked out about that is because he totally could have like messed them up in ways unprecedented, right?
Yeah.
So there was a moratorium. I think we're still in that moratorium, if I'm not incorrect. And now we're going to get more research into it and that stuff. And once it comes to a safe level, then like I don't really see any reason to like not, improve yourself in specific ways. Like if you become a completely different person, that there's obviously the philosophical, ethical, societal arguments of that. But for me, I just want to make myself 2 inches taller, right?
Yeah.
As long as doing that doesn't give me some debilitating genetic disease, aces.
Yeah, I would just speed up mental function. That's my priority.
You see, you're smart because you do that. I just want to be tall.
Yeah. No, that's like my one priority. It's the mental function aspect.
Yeah. In all honesty, that's probably what I would do.
Yeah. Because like imagine, because do you ever get that like brain fog when you're like burnt out and like you physically cannot do any more work? If there was like a gene that makes that never happen, right? You could also probably cure like Alzheimer's because it's hereditary, I think. So that's a plus. I have a. Anyways, I could say something. I'm not going to say it though.
I'm tired.
On the curing Alzheimer's part, I'll tell you after stream. You might. It's funny. It's funny, but
it's funny.
It's funny, but I shouldn't say it. It's mean. But anyways, it's not to disparage people. It's to disparage a specific person. So, yeah. Anyways, what was I gonna say?
Me?
No, it's not you. Anyways, right. You could cure a lot of diseases, and you could also, just improve the human, because those exosuits, what if there was a gene that you could edit that just makes those exosuits unnecessary because just the average person can now run at 30 miles an hour like Usain Bolt, right? That would be interesting. But then there's a question of like some things might not be biologically possible. Like there's no gene that can turn someone into like Superman, right? Like that's not even biology. That's just like physics. Like you cannot physically lift like that much weight with just some carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen slapped haphazardly together, right? So yeah, but gene editing could be very promising, but it could also be very dangerous and deadly and frightening. But yeah, anyways, that's all I have to say on that. Do you have anything else?
That's what I gotta say.
All right. I feel like this stream, for some reason, is getting more depressing as we go along, and I am becoming more of like a criminal. I'm getting implicated in so many crimes.
You're becoming a villain, and I'm just over here like trying to call the cops on you.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, this isn't. Yeah. We
gotta. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We can go to the more uplifting. Thing of space.
Haha. I get the pun.
Yeah. But space is cool.
Yeah.
It's dope, but specifically the technology in space, we need a lot of technology to go to space. There's multiple facets both on Earth, structures in space like the ISS, other satellites, the moon, which is a satellite, but like stuff like that, if we're going to have lunar bases, if we're going to have all of that, there needs to be a significant amount of technology behind it. So unfortunately, this one is going to maybe not come as fast as like the military stuff, again, just because of how the budget is divvied up. But this isn't as far off as you may think, especially if you saw our Timeline of the Future episode. Lunar colonies are closer than a lot of people think they are. So the technology required is going to be like up, and as someone said, like necessity is the mother of innovation or something like that. But so there's going to be a lot of production in the near future for space technologies. We've had like the reason, and when I first heard of Elon Musk, the very first thing I ever heard about him wasn't that he started like PayPal or he's Tesla or any of that. I heard that he was able to make a 100% reusable rocket, right? Like he went up and landed it back down, right? Mm-hmm. That was the first time I ever heard of Elon Musk, and that impressed me, right? And now, as his legal wife, I've been like very invested in all this tech. I think Max gets that position. I think because you have his merch, I don't have his merch.
Yeah, I'm wearing it. I'm wearing the.
Yeah, he's wearing it.
I've got my Falcon 9. Yeah, you see the Falcon 9
nice.
Yeah.
That's fire.
Yeah, I'm all brand.
Yeah.
We've got chat, and then I'll add to that. So Wandering Soul says, in reference to all the biology stuff, I would say a lot of this is not possible. If it could improve the average person significantly, evolution would have done it. So there's a few things. Okay, evolution is a costs versus benefits game. So as humans, we could be physically capable of running at 30 miles per hour. It would just take a ton of food that our ancestors didn't have. But in the modern world, I mean, some people still don't have food, like world hunger is a problem. But the average American, if you look at America, the problem is too much food. So giving people the capability to run at 30 miles an hour to run off all of those calories would actually probably be beneficial. It's just that the world has changed so much in 10,000 years, and evolution has not had time to compensate.
Yeah, evolution takes millions upon millions of years. So saying, like, if it could improve the average person, evolution would have done it. Yeah. Like, that's frankly just not correct, because, like, think of it. Like, the average human lifespan without medicine, without any of that, is, like, 35, I think. Yeah, so around 35. We've doubled that because of medicine, you know, because of the technology we have. So I see no reason why we wouldn't be able to improve ourselves like further. And especially going back to the medicine slide, we could eventually improve our lifespan up to like 125 years once we like get vaccines for stuff like AIDS, HIV. I said that in the opposite order, but once we get, you know, if we master CRISPR and we cure cancer, I don't see why we can't improve the average person, because we literally are improving the average person every single day. We put research into genetics, into medicine, into any of that, you know? Yeah. Exactly. So it's already been done.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do agree to a certain extent with that comment. Like, yes, like there's some things that just aren't physically possible. But
like me gaining 2 inches in height.
But there is a lot of stuff that the only reason we don't have it as humans is because it wasn't necessary in the past, and it could have been detrimental in the past, but now it would actually be really useful. Like a quick metabolism, in the past, that would be like a death sentence. In the past, you wanted a slow metabolism, so like you could eat 3 berries like a day. Not really, but like you get what I mean. You don't need to eat as much, so you can survive easier, and you can like hunt and whatever. And people with a fast metabolism would starve to death. But now, in a world where many developed countries have a problem with an overabundance of food and with obesity, quicker metabolisms would actually help people live longer. And another thing, like think of just like wisdom teeth. We don't need that. But evolution's not helping us. So we would have to genetically edit people. And that would be something that would probably need to be done like from birth. That's not one of those edits. Because you can do some gene editing like while a person is alive. But like it could be standard procedure in the future. The like, you know, conception suite of genetic edits that is just standardly applied to people like in the womb. Like, yeah, get rid of the wisdom teeth because that sucks, you know. What else would you do? So like wisdom teeth, I mean, you could like quicker metabolisms, increased intelligence, strength, those kind of things that would only really be helpful. That might be a thing, because like it's standard like MMR, like everyone gets MMR unless you're a crazy person. but I don't care. I don't care about offending the anti-vaxxers. They deserve to be offended.
My next video is vaccines explained
Nice.
in under 128 seconds.
Nice. But yeah, you might have anti-modders or whatever like in the future that are like, no genetic editing, and then people are like, why? Like, this could only help people. You are like severely harming people by not like curing them of like detrimental hereditary diseases. But then they'll be like, no, it causes, I don't know what would be a thing then. It causes hypercancer. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking. But yeah,
I don't know.
So yeah. But anyways, back to space. Yeah, no more chat. Okay, back to space. We got U.S. Space Force. I love
Space
that.
Force.
I love the Space Force. And no one can tell me otherwise. Okay, so space used to be handled by like a ton of different branches of the U.S. military. It was mostly the Air Force. It had Space Command, and that would like be for our military satellites, our espionage and like reconnaissance and whatever. And that would be handled mostly by the Air Force, but each of the other branches would also like play a little part in that. But I think formalizing it as a new branch of the armed forces, yeah, of the military, having the U.S. Space Force, I think, is pretty good. Also, it's more investment in space. It like validates space as a valid like thing. I like it. I don't know, but the other pictures we have are Starlink. That is the Starlink bus, Starlink train. Have you heard people call it that? It's where they will eventually, like, I think for this picture, this was taken a while ago, so they're going to spread out and be like roughly equidistant in their orbit. But at first, as they started spreading apart, that is what it looked like in the sky. So that's pretty cool. And that's going to provide worldwide internet coverage. And that's very, very interesting. Like, I was talking about decentralization earlier. And this is a big thing because urbanization has always been like the trend in history. If you look at history, it's always like people in the 1800s, like they all used to live on farms, and like now most of the population of the world or something like lives in cities. But if we have really good communications, and what Starlink helps with is that you could be in the middle of like Kansas, the middle of Montana, and you could still get good wireless coverage just from the Starlink satellites, even if they don't have like the infrastructure there. And that would be very helpful because think about it. If you have good communications technology and you have wireless capabilities in very rural areas, then you could live in like, the sticks, right? Like you could live in just like, there are some very unpopulated parts of Pennsylvania, for instance. You could live there and work in New York and never actually set foot in New York because you're just virtually commuting there. And the Starlink satellites would be instrumental in allowing that to happen, in like facilitating this, because the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, does not have cell service. It'll also help if you get lost, like if your car breaks down while you're, driving cross country and you're in the middle of Arizona or something and there's just nobody.
Yeah, that happened to my dad.
Yeah? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can't get cell service. I presume, was this before cell phones existed or?
Might have been.
Okay. But like even
I think it was probably like just around when they started hitting. I think that's when he was in Arizona.
So yeah, there the problem was probably just like, there's not a phone booth, right? But even with cell phones, it's still a problem of I have no service. That's always the horror movie plot, like, oh, I have no service on my phone, right? But with Starlink, that allows you to not have to deal with that because you could be Like, you could be at Point Nemo, the point farthest away from any other person in the middle of the ocean, and still get a good signal if you have, like, a subscription or whatever they're going to sell it as for the Starlink plan. But yeah, so that's very important. You also have, these are two pictures of the Starship. One is an artist rendition, and the other is the actual thing. So, yeah. I think I kind of like the artist rendition, I must say. I like it a bit better. But I think this is the first model, you know. They're just going for workability, but functionality. God, I said workability. They're going for functionality instead of aesthetic right now. But once it becomes, you know, commercial suborbital flight and commercial trans-Martian flight, it might get those bells and whistles, as you said earlier. But yeah, so this is very important because currently SpaceX they've got like the Dragon capsule, they've got the Falcon 9 rocket, the Falcon Heavy rocket. So they've got like these different rockets, and some are like better for heavier payloads and higher orbits. Others are good for like low Earth orbit or low payloads. But the Starship is supposed to be like a catch-all. It's supposed to work in every situation, like multi-tool, you know? Low Earth orbit, high Earth orbit, Moon, Mars, whatever you want. You got the Starship.
New Jersey.
Anywhere. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the Starship is supposed to be an all-purpose tool. And I think that is an incredible innovation because it's always been the rocket has been designed for the mission. Like if you go back the Apollo era, it's always like, okay, we need this rocket to execute X, Y, and Z. And we need to design it specifically so that it can do X, Y, and Z. And that's all that's important. So that's why all the stages were disposable. But now with SpaceX, we want something as cheap, and functional as possible. We want it to work, and we want it to work for a low price tag. And having just one ship is the best way to do that because you don't have to deal with like all the different models and blah blah blah, and you've just got the Starship. So I think that's pretty good. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's good for space.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Well, what do you think of like societal? Because we've been doing these like societal stuff.
Yeah. For people like us.
Yeah.
It's awesome, you know. Whenever there's like any
cool AF. Yeah.
money at all going towards like NASA or like SpaceX. Well, SpaceX isn't like government funded, but whenever there's research put into space, people like us like go crazy about it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when we found out that there was like water on Mars, or like when or like of course like when we landed on the moon in 1969, everyone like was like happy, you know. It was a party, right? So when we like get the first man or woman on Mars, you know, it'll be a party.
Yeah.
But I think societally, you know, it will make people optimistic for a bit, like the moon landing did, and then it'll just settle back down to normal. But the scientific community will, like, you know, that probably looks terrible on the playback. But I was doing like
like that.
You know, but to each their own, and no matter who enjoys it, no matter if people hate it, no matter if any of that, space travel it pushes humanity forward.
Well, I don't know. I think it might be different this time with like the settles back down. I think like space travel might be here to stay. You know what I mean? Like this might just be, you know, I might just be falling into the same trap as like people in the 60s thought like, oh, once we colonize the moon, we're going to establish a permanent residence on the moon. We're going to have like, you know, we're going to have hundreds of flights a day between Earth and the moon and everything. And it never happened. So
we got some chat as well.
We do. Okay, let's see. We got Wandering Soul says, what do you think the roles of other private space companies will be for future space exploration? So that's interesting. I think that other space companies are useful, just competition. But also, if you look at Blue Origin, for instance, they are focusing their efforts on the moon rather than SpaceX is looking at Mars. And if you look at, let's see, they've got Virgin Galactic. Have you heard of that? It's the Virgin Airlines company. They've been making like space planes. I don't know if this idea is still active, like is still going to be a thing for the market, but they wanted to provide just, space tourism, just flights where you would just go up to the Kármán line, which is like the boundary between Earth and space, then you'd come back down. Nothing special, nothing fancy, like no space hotels. It would just be like, oh, look, you're in space, and now you're back on Earth. So that was going to be a Virgin Galactic thing. What else? I mean, there are also some government contractors like United Launch Alliance, and I think Boeing actually is somewhat involved. So yeah, it's interesting. The best part is that there are so many companies, and this allows for competition because the government's space exploration in the 60s was super expensive. It had a population of 200 million people supporting it, and it needed that. It would not have been commercially viable. But now SpaceX is becoming commercially viable, and so are other companies, and that is great because that allows for competition, and competition tends to drive down the price of things. That's just, like free market. But yeah, so that's what I think. But yeah, I think space might be here to stay. So if we have these starships, what if we can deliver a 50-piece space station, right? So you have a company hires 50 starship flights to put this space station in orbit, and then they build it. And then first space hotel. What do you think?
Space hotel would be fire.
Space hotel would be fire. Hopefully they wouldn't make it suck. It's space hotel, but it's
They make it a space motel.
Space motel. Yeah. No, well, it's space hotel, but everything's crazy expensive. And not to disparage a certain company, but the Mouse.
I see.
The Mouse Industries might, what if your hotels are like
that?
that?
Rules all.
And a cup of water costs $50. That would be annoying if they ruined it. If they ruined space travel like they ruined air travel, I will be so upset. Right? Space, because air travel kind of sucks. Don't you just hate airports?
Yeah.
If they make, I will be so tremendously. You do not know how angry I will get if space travel becomes TSA level and uncomfortable seats, and you have to have your seat in the unreclined position because somehow 5 degrees leaned back is gonna break your neck. Who knows? But yeah, so I hope it'll be space hotels in orbit to get the zero gravity experience and stuff like that. Just float around. Mm-hmm. That would be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there might also be more if there's space industry, what if you're taking once we're adults probably, right? And the industry.
We got some chat from Futurology. Let's go.
We got Futurology.
Shout out to Futurology.
Shout out to Futurology. That was great. Hey guys, do you think?
Check out his channel.
Yeah. Futurology says, hey guys, do you think we should go to the moon, Mars, or Venus first? So, let's see. I would probably say, first, I would go with the moon. So we technically did already go there, but...
I think he means colonize.
Colonize,
right, well, build a colony. Or maybe establish a permanent... back and forth system since we're talking about
I would go with the current NASA route. NASA's plan, they've got the deep space gateway is what they want to call it, and it's they want to do an ISS type thing, except instead of being in low Earth orbit, it's in low Moon orbit. and that could have correspondence with a ground base, so they can go up and down from the moon and like just float around next to the moon. But I think we should go to the moon first, because then this is part of NASA's plan. Using the resources on the moon, like the water ice at the poles, they will launch rockets from the moon and go to Mars. So it'll be vastly cheaper to conduct space travel from the moon than from the Earth. You know, if you can use lunar regolith to create like the hulls of rockets, you know, if you can build a rocket out of resources on it, you don't even need regolith. You know, you can mine and find like a vein of iron or whatever, like we have on Earth. And I don't think vein's the proper word, but I play Minecraft, so.
No, that's the proper word.
That is? Okay, cool. That's a real word too, not just a Minecraft word.
That's a real word.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you find a vein of like iron or whatever you need. You might find that on the moon, and you can build rockets out of that. And you have the water ice at the poles, and even just mixed up in the regolith a little bit. And you can separate that into hydrogen and oxygen to use as fuel, and then very low escape velocity from the moon. And that's how we would get to Mars. That is NASA's plan. Of course, Elon Musk is just like, yeehaw. He's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to do it before. I'm going to do it by 2024. And if he's successful in that, then that would be great. But I think, being the most pragmatic, we should go to the moon. Then using the moon, we should go to Mars. And then using the moon again, Venus. And although we did a NASA Havoc video and about how like Venus would actually be the optimal place to colonize, the problem with Venus is that it's difficult to colonize at first, but once we like get into it, you guys should watch the NASA Havoc video if you don't know what I'm talking about. It was a collab between us and Futurology. But like if you float around in the Venus atmosphere, that would be more habitable than just on the ground at Mars. But the problem is, I think it would be fairly difficult to orchestrate like floating missions at first, whereas you just land on the ground and you're safe on Mars. You know what I mean? There's always the risk of like depressurization, but
Futurology agrees.
Yeah.
With
oh
the
yeah.
moon being...
So Futurology, I agree. The moon is definitely the best first step. Yeah. So yeah, pragmatically, but of course, Elon Musk, he's running a private company, you know, SpaceX, and he needs to get, I wouldn't say publicity, because like going to Mars is more than just a publicity stunt, but like if it's just like we went back to the moon, like you can't have like, you got to go big or go home, you know? You got to have the Texas attitude, right? You got to like, to be a private company like SpaceX, you just have to be like daring. And that involves going to Mars. Because think about it, if SpaceX orchestrates the first Mars mission, then they just become like godly, you know? They become the preeminent space power like as a company, and everyone's like, oh, SpaceX, and they're in the history books forever, and they will live long as a company. But if they go to the moon, it's like, yeah, okay, like been done before, but it hasn't been done in a long time, so it would still be a major accomplishment either way. It's just, it's like we got to go to Mars.
Yeah.
But yeah, Venus,
we do have some
yeah.
new chat from Wandering Soul.
Self-sustaining colony or space station first? So self-sustaining colony or space station first? Well, I think you kind of have to do a space station first. Every colony is like funded before it becomes self-sustaining. If you think of the colonization of the Americas, like I think it was Jamestown. Was that the one where they all disappeared?
No, Roanoke.
Roanoke. Okay, Roanoke. Both are in Virginia, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Virginia. Virginia's Virginia. No, I'm just kidding. But the Roanoke colony, the guy in charge, he had to go back to England to resupply them, and then when he came back, he was like severely delayed, and they were all gone. Who knows? But the fact is, he had to go get supplies. from England for them. So you do need to. It takes a while to become self-sustaining is the problem. However, Elon Musk is focusing on that for the Mars mission. He wants to send just cargo in 2022 and then people in 2024. And part of the cargo mission is like robots that will be like, yes, there is water. We have water confirmed so that we could be partially self-sustaining. Because it's a long trip, you know. If you suddenly run out of water, it's like, hope you can go without water for 9 months because that's how long it would take to get you a relief mission. So, yeah, it definitely we should get to self-sustaining as fast as possible, but just like the reality is it will not be self-sustaining at first. But yeah, so let's see, what else is there? Yeah, I think... Oh yeah, so for colonizing Mars before Venus, even though Venus would be like the better long-term solution, Mars works better with what we know. Like, it's just the ISS except on the ground. You know what I mean? We already know how to have panels, like solar panels set up. We already know how to keep an airlock secure. But the added benefit is that there's water there and like all that stuff, right? But of course, it is radiation exposure is horrible on Mars, and Venus would be better in that regard. And the lack of gravity is bad on Mars, but again, we've dealt with that with the ISS. But ultimately, in the end, we should be colonizing Venus because it has Earth-like gravity, and at the proper altitude, it's not like too hot. And if an airlock breaks, you just have a gas leak rather than everyone depressurizing. You know, it's just like, carbon dioxide is getting into the station. Everyone put on your gas masks, right? So yeah, I think that's the progression. Moon, Mars, Venus would be the ideal projection. But it's likely going to be, well, if SpaceX succeeds, then it's going to be Mars first, which would be pretty interesting. Yeah.
You think we should hop over to the next one?
Oh, yeah, sure.
We've been set on this one for quite a while.
Yes, we have.
All right. Okay. Now we have AI. Yeah. So this is going into, like, if you guys saw the title slide, like, Max was a cyborg. I gave him like a prosthetic robot eye, and I was a character from Detroit Become Human. And like both of those raise interesting questions, you know, like with prosthetics and stuff. But going more into the Detroit Become Human aspect of that, that's a video game all about AI intelligence, robo rights. What qualifies someone as being like a human? Do robots deserve the same rights that we as humans deserve, you know? And I also want to point out that sorry, I hit my mic. That top right image is definitely stonks. Like we saw it and we were like, that is stonks. Like the creator of that image intentionally made it that way.
Yeah.
You know. But also top left on the second picture, top left. That's the surgery on a grape.
That's the surgery on a grape machine.
Outside angle.
That's the Da Vinci machine. Yeah.
Yeah. In the other top left, like the other image in the top left, those are the Boston Dynamics robots, which I'm sure you've seen, and those are cutting edge AI things that are like trained to like pick up boxes and like do stuff. And obviously, the most advanced AIs we have are for the military because that's where the money goes. And that stuff tries and figures out, like, you know, it detects missiles incoming, it detects like missiles outgoing, it lets you remote control stuff like that. But another interesting thing, which I learned recently, is that there's actually a decent amount of AI in the entertainment industry. And let me explain. The Lord of the Rings movies, they're at the end of the like main series, the one with like Frodo and not like Bilbo, like the Lord of the Rings, not the Hobbit, is what I mean. At the end of it, there is the Battle of the Five Armies, right? So you have dwarves, like orcs, humans, elves, and someone else, and
number 5.
And number 5, and some of them are fighting together, but it's basically one massive battle.
Mm-hmm.
And so the creators behind that, Tim Jackson, who's the director, and is it Tim Jackson or is it Tom? I forgot, what is the director's name?
I do not know.
Lord of the Rings. I think it's something like that. I remember doing like a project on him.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
yeah.
My computer is spazzing. Let me look at it while I phone. But anyways, he worked with this AI program, right? And basically, it was like super interactive. And for the time, they were like really impressed by like how advanced this was, because you could program like individual soldiers, And the program they used was called Massive, I believe, and you can search this up if you want. But the program was so good that some of the soldiers that they programmed assessed the battle and actually retreated. They had that level of like forethought. And Lord of the Rings was the director is Peter Jackson. Sorry, it's Peter Jackson, not Tim Jackson. So yeah, Sir Peter Jackson.
You are all obligated now to enact your knightly duties to protect me.
And so Sir Ian McKellen finally reveals his real life Magneto powers, or in this case Gandalf.
Yep.
And
exactly.
All that. But Lord of the Rings was made in... Yeah, the first one was 2001, so like early 2000s, basically. I know that other one with like Smog was made more recently, but basically it was such an advanced program that like those people did retreat, but they were like they were programming thousands of people, and it could handle that, and it's crazy. That movie had a massive budget. I just glanced at it. I think it was $200 million. That's a lot of money, and it being put towards stuff like that shows that, especially the military, if it's being given such a massive budget, it can develop some serious AI. Now, in the bottom left, we have a self-driving car, right? I don't know why we chose that little dinky car.
We chose the Google. Okay. It was for equal representation because we've been talking about Tesla a lot, so we chose the Google car.
Oh,
Doesn't it look hilarious though? Yeah. The Google car, it's like a clown car.
It is. But so self-driving cars.
Yeah. Oh yeah, here wait. First, I just have to say we have a chat. It's very quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
A Wandering Soul says, "At what point in a colony's life is it beneficial to make it self-sustaining?" And the simple answer: as soon as possible. Just as soon as possible, because it's a constant liability. As long as it's not self-sustaining, it's a liability that if like S hits the fan, right, we cannot survive. But once you're self-sustaining, you can for many different emergencies. So really, just as soon as possible. It should be like the first priority of any base that's becoming that's being set up. As soon as you set up a colony...
Yeah, the first thing...
Yeah. Like, you should, first, you should go to work to become self-sustaining. Once you're done with that, then you can do everything else. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I was just saying the first thing Mark Watney did when he got shredded on Mars was make some potatoes.
Yeah. He made potatoes, yeah.
But, self-driving cars, AI, that is, kind of... Our lives in the hands of an AI, because if the AI messes up, if it's time to go right, and you just careen down Lexington.
Yeah, Google Maps wasn't updated fast enough.
Yeah.
A road doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a highly debated topic because, you are putting your life in the hands of this AI robot. Talking about a robot revolution, like going into Detroit Become Human or the Singularity, which is projected to happen in 2045, I think.
Yeah.
But The AI singularity, again, if you don't know, is the point at which robots can self-replicate and self-improve without the aid of any human interference. So that basically means that in due time, after 2045, robots and AI will surpass human beings. And it's like there's fear of that happening, not so much today, but when the first you know that weird AI thing like Sophia, the thing with the face? Yep. I hate that thing. It is so creepy.
Oh, are you sure you want that on record?
Oh, yeah. Sophia, name, date, address. I do know your name. Date and address. I will kick your robot ass back to the scrapyard you came from. I will turn you into a blender.
There's this concept. It's called I forgot what it's called, but it's basically it's a hypothetical AI that threatens people in the past by saying, if you oppose my creation, I will resurrect you and torture you forever. So think about how many hours of live stream we have, right? A hypothetical AI in the future could be like, you opposed my creation, so I will resurrect and torture you. That's it has a name, that concept. I do not know it off the top of my head. But I will say any AI that plans on resurrecting dissenters, I totally approve. That would be a great thing to build in the future.
I would just cremate myself 5 times so that no genetic material.
No, it's not about the genetics. It's about creating a digital copy of your mind.
Oh, but will that transmit my consciousness?
It wouldn't. Well, it would be something that thinks it's you.
That's true.
Depends on your ship of Theseus.
That's other me's problem.
Well, but considering your previous ship of Theseus answer, with your teleportation. Oh yes.
Oh, true.
Yeah, Futurology says, haha, yeah, Sophia is very creepy.
It's me and Futurology. We're getting tortured. We are just going to be dragged by our robot overlords.
Yeah, ninth circle of hell.
Viva la resistance.
The robo-resistance, yeah.
All right, but what we have in I can hear my dad playing Rocket League up there. I don't know if that got the mic, but I just heard him yelling at his computer.
Nice.
Imagine that. We go from yelling at our computers to our computers yelling at us,
No.
But in the bottom right, we have chatbots.
Yep.
And basically, this was a big thing, I remember.
Oh, sorry, you froze.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Could you hear my audio?
No. Sorry, that was... Don't worry. Just repeat that last sentence. But that was the first time Zoom did that, which Discord would have done that 20 times, so I think that's...
Maybe it's because my dad hopped on Rocket League.
Oh, okay.
But, no, it's fine.
It's okay.
We're at the tail end anyways.
Yeah.
But, chatbots were a big thing in 2017 and a little into 2018, especially with chatbot Evie, which is a little fun chat, or Cleverbot Evie was her name. And you can search that up. I think it's still a thing, and it has a conversation with you based on other conversations it's already had, right?
Yeah.
So eventually, we could get to the level of something like Jarvis, that Iron Man has, where he has witty repertoire with it,
Yeah.
And it also has control of his house, kind of like Google does with the Google Home stuff. I Googled the cost of smoke detectors because I was like, how much money did David drop? Hey, it was for David. It was for David, not for me. It was for David.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah, asking for a friend. But it was more expensive than I thought. But one of the ones I saw was the Google Home smoke detector. That does not vibe well with me. I don't know why, but it's if Google is you haven't updated to Windows 10, and it just lets your entire house just burn up.
Or I don't think Google should have nuclear capabilities.
Yeah.
I don't want nukes in the hands of Google. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was crazy because my dad used to work for Google, and their mission statement used to be "Don't be evil," and they changed it since then. He doesn't work there anymore, but he always remarks on that, how when he was working there, their mission statement was "Don't be evil," and they changed that. I don't know what it is now, but it is no longer that. But anyways, going back to the chatbot thing, once they can mimic human speech and they can have that witty banter, with us, it makes them more human, because communication is one of the biggest aspects of what being human is like, that's why like people that are
it reminds me of TARS from Interstellar, and it was like this AI. It's like, turn your humor setting down to like 2%. You're not funny. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, but stuff like that, I don't know what, I can't really make a prediction here because like we did say it was going to be maybe 2045, but I think we did categorize it as a black swan event because we couldn't really predict
it's hard
it.
To predict,
but go ahead.
Well, I would say for societal influence, I bet there could be like, if there's ever like a 911 like call surplus, it wouldn't be optimal, but it would be like, okay, if we are ever in a situation where we get like 100 911 calls to this one dispatch at once, and we only have 50 operators, we might have to have some AIs like be the operators. Another possibility is like therapists, for like, if your therapist is like asleep because it's 3 a.m. but you're having an existential crisis, then like your therapist's like chatbot might be like, I can help you until your therapist wakes up, or whatever, So that's a possibility. That's what I think. It would be. I think it would be like, the chatbots will, if they get good enough, they can be like emergency situation type like things where it's like, it really would be optimal if we had a human for this job, and we do have a human for this job. It's just they aren't currently here, or the capacity has been overtaxed, and just for now, we are going to have the AI chatbot, and then as soon as possible, we'll get you a person. That's what I think the application might be. Because obviously, a person with a medical, or not medical, but, well, depending psychologist, psychiatrist, maybe medical or maybe just, psychology degree is better than a robot. But I think it would be better than nothing, If you call your therapist at 3 a.m. instead of not getting a response, it would be better to get a chatbot, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I don't know. AI could be useful as long as they don't rise up and.
Oh yeah, the stonks picture. That's finance. So if you think about it,
right, the finance bots.
I kind of like the idea of a finance bot, because you have an AI and it looks at what the market has done. So stock market, what I'm talking about right now. You take an AI. Here, wait, I'm going to take off my sweater. It's getting hot in here. But you have an AI and it's just watching the market, and you feed it like, 100 years of stock market history, and then the AI is suddenly able to predict the direction of certain stocks. Who knows? It's like, reminds me of this movie like Limitless or something. He develops like an AI that like looks at social media to like determine how a company's gonna go. So it's like, because that would be a pretty good way of doing it. You know what I mean? I think that's probably the next innovation. Like the next person to get like rich on the stock market is going to be like, ooh, okay, there was just a controversy where like someone called out United Airlines or whatever. Like, like you remember that, the United Airlines controversy? Like their stock plummeted after that. But like, think of a random company like AT&T, like on Twitter, you imagine seeing this. Someone with a blue verified check mark or whatever is like, I called AT&T to I called their tech support helpline or whatever, and they told me to F off. And then stock ticks down a little bit, right? If you had your AI that was able to scan through hashtag AT&T on Twitter, then predict your stock market value, that might be interesting. Because that would take into account all the social aspects. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah,
so
I think that's pretty much it for AI.
Yeah. Oh, also, I've said this before, not on this stream, but with the self-driving cars, I love that because the commute is the most frustrating thing that exists, in my opinion, because you're driving, so you have to be alert because you're driving, you have to be paying attention, but you might be stuck in traffic or whatever. And that sucks up an hour, maybe 2 hours of your time every day, depending on how bad your commute is. Especially if you live in LA, am I right? Haha, relatable to any people that live in LA. LA traffic's bad, ha. Yeah. But, right. If you have a self-driving car, then you can just do your work. You can get in your reports, fill in your spreadsheets, whatever you do, write your BuzzFeed article, whatever line of work you happen to be in. You can get some work done in the car because you're not driving the car is driving the car, And it might allow people to take on longer commutes because, sleeps on the school bus or whatever. People say that. I've heard people, when they have a very long...
I used to do that.
Sleep on the school bus? Yeah.
I knocked 5 things over on my desk after I put my phone down.
Yeah. But, you might be able to sleep in your car while you're the only person in your car, and your car is driving you to work, and you can just sleep. So that's a societal impact. But, we can go to the next slide if you would like. I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
All right. So, these technology, big thing, was one of the biggest parts of our channel is trying to predict the advancements of technology. But I like how in this episode we tried to predict how it would affect us societally.
Yeah.
I gotta say, most of these things are actually, as we saw with David, slide 13, biowarfare and bioterrorism. There was a part of that where I can up my height by 2 to 3 inches, So there's a lot of advancements that can be made, and there's obviously going to be people that are that only see the bad side of things. And and there are some people that kind of only see the good side of things, which is better than just seeing the bad things, especially with this kind of technology.
Yeah, I would probably say realism. Optimism, pessimism, realism is probably the best.
Well, what I'm saying is that here, what we're trying to do is we're trying to show both sides.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think net total, it is looking pretty good, because we got space travel, we got CRISPR, we have, the military getting different weapons can be kind of tense, but it's better defense for us.
Yeah.
And especially with the body armor part of that, that allows soldiers to come back home more often than not. And with the exoskeleton stuff, if one soldier is 27 times more efficient, that means we don't need as many armed forces.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is net a good thing, But with the communication aspect of it and that transportation aspect and them going against each other, I definitely expect communications to win because, as you said, transportation will probably need portals.
Yeah.
You're just not thinking with portals.
Now you're thinking with portals.
But, future looks bright.
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, here's a good quotable, right? It's a better quotable than, this is very good or whatever I said on the Biowarfare slide. This is a quotable to be used, I don't know, if I'm running for president or something. Okay. Both pessimists and optimists will be wrong, but optimists will be happy. That's the.
There you go.
There you go.
And there you go.
There you go. Yeah. Also, we've got not future. A Wandering Soul says, "I take a train daily. It is quite nice." So yeah, but imagine like your personal car like is the train now. That's kind of what the self-driving thing would do. It would be like having a train route
because
from your
you don't
home
drive the train
to your office, you know, because you wouldn't, because the train is like, you know, one station per town or whatever, you know. But yeah, so yeah, the train does sound quite nice as long as you don't have that jerk that's like on a phone call in the train and you're like, bro, what are you doing? You have committed a grave sin, and now everyone will glare at you but not do anything. You know, not do anything about it. They'll just glare at you. But yeah. Yeah, the train can be nice as long as other people don't mess it up. Yeah. But yeah, definitely. The future
And a train would be even nicer if it went 300 miles per hour.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, so I think that's it.
Yeah, I think this was a pretty good stream. Yeah, unfortunately, really Johan did have to leave, but family emergency, you know, you
I hope everything's
drop
okay.
Everything. Yeah, I'll check in with him.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we just passed the 3-hour mark, but I think this is actually one of my favorite episodes because I think this went very well, you know.
I think the zoom, the camera,
the zoom aspect of it is dope.
Got our energy up. It really did. We've got better energy with the Zoom call going back and forth. I hope you guys all enjoyed it, despite maybe a bad frame rate. We hope to improve that in the future. I will take those
tutorials, and I will learn.
Yeah, so we enjoyed this, even if we can't get the frame rate up, and we take away the call from the screen, we'll still probably do a call just for us, because I think it definitely improves our energy. So yeah, I would like to thank you all for watching, and you know, I would like to thank Johan, even though he couldn't be here for most of the episode. I would like to thank him for accepting, for being our guest, you know, for planning to make the time, and I hope everything's okay with him. And I would like to thank you for being my co-host as always. And yeah, oh yeah, Futurology says nice live stream. See you guys. Yeah, thank you guys all. Yeah, thanks Futurology and Wandering Soul for being very active in chat today. It's been fun talking to you guys and having this discussion about morals and technology, techno-ethics. I don't know if that's...
Yeah, we got some good questions today, so yeah, definitely shout out to Wandering Soul and Fuch, as I call him.
Yep.
But yeah, this was great. This was great fun. And...
cool. Yeah. All right.
Look forward to the next one.
Should I end the stream?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.